serious, right?
No, it's not that serious. It's just a podcast. Hey, everybody. GameHounds podcast. We are here bringing you news, reviews, commentary, and of course, as usual, 16 minutes late. So Nick and Andrew and I are all putting stuff together. I'm Edie Sellers. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up on this video. And also, if you aren't liked or subscribed, hit the notification bell and like and subscribe so you can see us every single week and be here. Don't forget our Patreon, patreon.com/GameHounds. $1 a month. That's all we ask. So, all right. I got my stuff done. Who we got in the chat room yet? AC Wraith, our link bitch, is here. Thank God.
We might be 17 minutes late, but it just means we have to cut the pre-show down by 15 minutes and we'll be on time.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And all right. So anything else we want to talk about before we start the show? Anything we want to, be not necessarily part of the audio show, but part of the video show?
So I had plans to go see a movie yesterday. And I was going to go see Tenet or The New Mutants. And I had checked Thursday, and they were in theaters. I was like, all right, this should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
On Saturday, I checked to go find out what time it's on, see if it's still there, and it wasn't. I had missed watching either of those movies by one day.
Really? Tenet's out of theaters now?
Yes.
Are there any movies that are actually out now? I mean,
My
what did they
theater-
replace it with?
There are new movies coming out in theaters.
My theater is playing either horror movies from 2020 or movies from 2019, 2017, 2013. Like, just across the board. Not new stuff, but old stuff like Toy Story, American Sniper, Get Out was in theaters, probably for Halloween. But I think they're just hurting. They are hurting for money, and there's no new content to release.
I know that there's an AMC an hour away from me, that was showing new things. Like, that's where I went and saw Tenet. I know theaters are showing new things. Like, Let Him Go is a thriller that just came out, this last Friday. Theaters. Find a theater.
Nick is feeling okay. Yes, he's still blurry. His new apartment's internet. Yes, you've been blurry pretty much consistently since you moved apartments.
For $5 a day.
I can try rebooting again.
Oh my God, who's this third chair? He looks noobish.
Don't hate on Nick. It's just his internet.
Is he the third chair or are you the third chair? Here we go. There you are.
No.
Now Nick's the third chair. I
just don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of new movies, but it just sucked. The two ones that I wanted to go see both left theaters in the same day.
Yeah, that does suck. Tenet is a good theater movie. As usual, Nolan takes advantage of the IMAX screen. So that sucks.
Yeah. All right. So are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Are you finished? No passive aggressive. Just aggressive.
Who needs the passive aggressive?
We're all aggressive. All right. So we're starting the show.
Podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended, please stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
All right, mics are hot. Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 570. It is November 8th, 2020. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nick DiNicola and Andrew Smith. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, how was your week? Anything interesting? Did you catch Ebola?
Catch Ebola?
You know what I
No.
mean. The new Ebola, COVID-19.
I
yeah.
caught a bowl of rice.
Oh God, you suck.
I-
So I had a little bit of a scare yesterday. I woke up in the morning feeling fine. Sat down, was working on my computer, checking the news, la 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 la, and all of a sudden my nose filled up like bad, and I was having a hard time breathing, and I was exhausted. All hit me just like a wall, and it was like, oh. And I have really not been out of the house at all in the last 3 weeks, except to walk the dog on Sundays, where I don't talk to anybody. I don't come within contact of anyone. And I thought, oh no, but I think it was just a allergic reaction or something, because by the evening I felt fine, and I was checking my temperature the whole time, checking my oxygen saturation. I was fine, but it was like that moment when you think you're running back in your head, like, where have I been? Who have I talked to? When didn't I use hand sanitizer? You know, like, where could I possibly have gotten it? So.
I think I know. It's when you weren't playing Among Us with us.
Yeah,
That was
whatever
2
you were
weeks ago.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
That was 2 weeks ago, and that person is a frontline healthcare worker working in an ER. So yeah, entirely possible. But no, I'm fine. So yes, thank you for the reminder, AC Wraith. We do have our Patreon, patreon.com/GameHounds, and that helps us pay for all this video stuff. Speaking of which, I did another show of the update following the life of Ivar the Boneless until he died. I don't know if that was last week, but I have a new one that's probably going to come out today, that I'm going to do live of a playthrough, because Nick has essentially directed us into a wall, and now I'm going to try and save us, because we are losing so badly that this game may end very
Technically,
soon.
I didn't direct anyone into a wall. It's just that Ivar died.
No. Well, no, we expanded way too fast and had not shored up and had not made any arrangements for Ivar's death. So yeah, sort of my fault, mostly your fault. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You.
So we are now in a really bad position in having to start back from a very bad place, but we will try it. But we will also update on the history, because that's kind of half the fun, is understanding the history of what happened to the great heathen army, as the Christians called it, of Vikings that were in England in the 860s, and what happened to them after Ivar left them, because their story is actually way more interesting than Ivar's.
In the chat, AC Wraith mentioned Scott from in-game chat, who last week he said that he had COVID and a stroke. I guess turns out it was a heart attack instead of a stroke.
Oh, well,
So much
that's
better.
actually, I mean, if it's better, I
Huh.
mean, if you're going to have a choice between a stroke or a heart attack's better than a stroke.
Think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're both bad.
They're
So.
both bad. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's like if I had a choice between a stroke, a heart attack, and a nice, bowl of
Rice.
chicken, bowl of rice, I'd pick the bowl of rice. But if you're gonna have a stroke or a heart attack is way better to have than a stroke.
I guess there's less like lingering side effects or consequences from a heart attack.
It's the difference between, do you want your heart to have a problem, or do you want your brain to explode?
Fair, and I guess both are like time sensitive. So I know, like, the quicker you get to the stroke, like, the less damage it's going to do. Whereas like a
Mhm.
heart attack, though, can just be permanent damage right off the bat.
Right.
So
But there's also a lot of treatments, least of which a heart transplant if you're young enough.
Okay.
But yeah.
I guess it wasn't
Can I
a
get a-
week, but they were within weeks of each other.
Oh, what a shame. So, but he's either way. It seems he seems to have defeated COVID, which is good. Because yeah, COVID and a heart problem would be very bad since COVID is very, very hard on the respiratory system. It's also not great for a stroke either, because in some people, but not all people, it causes blood clots. They're not really quite sure why. Holy crap! Is it raining right now? It's dumping rain right now. This is our first rain of the season, and Nick, it happened just before the show. Nick didn't even know what it sounded like. He heard tapping and he's like, "What's going on outside?" He had to go to the window. It's like, "Oh, it's raining."
Well, I heard tapping. I thought it was the cats, but the cats weren't in that corner of the apartment, and so I looked over. I thought, like, is someone doing something outside on the wall? I'm on the second floor. What's going on? And then I looked out the window and I see rain.
Right.
People in California are just like, why is water falling from the sky? This does not happen here.
Right. We're all going to go up outside, look up in the air and around like turkeys. So Ryan Stevenson wants to know if you've checked out the show Vikings yet.
Not yet. It's on my to-watch list, but my to-watch list is very long and always getting longer. But it is on there, and I do want to see it.
Thank you for, by the way, recommending The Expanse.
Yeah.
Such a good show.
How far are
That's
you?
one I've been wanting to see.
We're in season 2. Kevin said that once he sat down and started watching it, he realized he has already seen it, but he's watching it again because, of course, he's the blank slate. He is the ultimate gray block. he forgets stuff, so he doesn't remember anything. And on top of that, he's one of those guys that watches something and most stuff just goes zoop right over his head. And so I'm like, oh, that's that guy from that thing. And he's like, oh, I never realized that. So I'm actually discovering things that he's not.
Well,
Hey,
that's a gift. Like, everyone's always like, man, I wish I could play this game for the first time again, or I could watch this movie for the first time.
Yeah.
He gets to live that.
Yep. Kevin is like the ultimate stupid dog. Like every minute is a new minute for Kevin.
Just find a show that he loves and then just show it to him. Once a week, every week. It's just like, this is amazing. Oh man, this is amazing.
Can't wait to find out what happens.
Corey
Yeah.
Wallace wants to remind us that Vikings is also on Hulu. Vikings is very good. It's good until it's not. It does jump the shark. So yeah, let's talk about some games. What games are we playing, my friends?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Okay.
My most recent new game is that I've put a little bit of time into is Hardspace. Yeah, Hardspace Shipbreaker. It's a PC game, and it's going to eventually come out for consoles. It's in early access right now, and it's the actual gameplay is you're in this this dock in space, and you take derelict ships, and you're supposed to take them apart. And the way you do this is you have this vision that'll let you see like joint points and whether or not a ship is pressurized and all sorts of stuff. And below you, like down towards the planet, because there's no up in space, there's this green mesh thing that you can chuck like antennas, the various furniture, like the reactors, doors, all that kind of stuff, and throw it down there and you'll get money for it. And then the walls are made out of material that you can either process for the nanocarbon or you can smelt down and salvage for like aluminum, titanium, stuff like that. It's kind of a puzzle game, and at the same time kind of I'm not sure, a race game or like not a time management game, because each mission has a timer on it, and that's your shift, because this is a dystopian nightmare game where at the very beginning of the game, you're going through and like signing your documents to work. And they're like, we have access and rights to your DNA. You will never get this back, and we can do whatever we want with it. It's so that we can remake you if you die. But honestly, it's because we want to own you and all various copies of you. And it's horrible, like corporate dystopia. And that I found kind of funny, to be honest. But you start off in debt of like 1 billion credits or 1 trillion credits. And while you're taking these ships apart and you're salvaging all the pieces, you make money. But
So
at
you're
the end
you're
of
working off your debt.
yeah, but the thing is, after every mission, you have to pay like rental. So you make money. You have to hope you made more than you spent that day as you try to work down your debt.
Mhm.
And that's horrible. Like that makes me feel bad, but it's a game, so don't worry. At the same time, you're juggling your oxygen, which you go back to this like little monitor and you buy, and your thruster like fuel, and then you have tethers on your gravity gun that can either like pull you to a thing or like push it. If it's too heavy, it won't work, but you can throw a tether onto it and onto a different point, and it'll pull a chunk of whatever you're tethered to, into wherever you need to go. So if you need to pull it down to the mesh to salvage something or one of the various processors, you can do that. And you're just trying to get as much value you can per day out of the clock. Now, once your shifts end, you can come back the next day, but you have to decide, okay, is there enough there that I can make money off of it? Can I make money off of a revisit, or should I move on to the next ship? And going to the next ship like costs money, and you have to just make sure you're juggling that as you're playing. So it ends up becoming this puzzle game of, can I make the most money in the shortest amount of time, and how to do that while upgrading your equipment as you go along.
It's the ultimate like nightmare gig economy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a physics-based game because you're in space. And if you're moving around, you have momentum. If you start moving too fast, stopping becomes a challenge. And you kind of have to use that to your advantage so you can get to different parts of the ship. And there's stuff to keep aware of, like if a cabin's pressurized, you have to make sure you unpressurize it, or you can use it to your advantage. Like there was a video of a guy who was taking apart a ship, and he pushed everything to the center of the ship when it was pressurized, and then he went out the airlock, and he basically cut the bottom of the ship open. And when he was ready to like release it, he finally hit the last joint. It unpressurizes and everything gets sucked out of the bottom and just gets thrown into the mesh down there. And that was his whole plan. I don't know what type of content they're going to have in the future. I think it's going to be more complicated ships that you can make more money off of. But they also added a race mode where you can time yourself against other people taking apart ships, and you're trying to see who can get the most money the quickest. And it's kind of fun. I enjoy it. It's relaxing. Like, you're not fighting anyone. You're just trying to figure out the puzzle and taking your time. But, you just focused on the project of dismantling a ship.
Sounds kind of cool. If it wasn't so, depressing.
It is extremely depressing.
If it wasn't, a dystopian probable reality of what's going to happen.
Like the corporation's like, as you know, in this article passed by the Mars Corporation, our company has rights to any derelict ship that's been vacated for 3 days. That's what you're going to be taking apart here. We don't know why it was vacated or what's wrong in there. You're going to find that out as you're taking it apart. Good luck. Yes, these ships have been left in empty, dead space. No distress signal, no nothing. The crew's just gone. Have fun taking it apart.
That absolutely sounds like the start of an alien horror.
Exactly. It sounds like the beginning of The Expanse.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten very far into it, so I haven't done a lot of the more complex stuff, but it sucks when you make like 800,000 credits and then the rental charge is like 600,000 credits for the day, and you're just like, motherfucker. Yay, I made 120,000.
You're never going to get out of that trillion credit debt.
Hopefully when I get better, I'll, be able to make some actual progress. But it also lets you know everything you destroyed and wasted too. So that's fun. Like, oh yeah, here's all the credits for everything that you sold, and here's everything that you broke.
So, next game.
Just continuing on, because it's the last thing I'll bring up. But I recently reloaded Division 2, and I bought their expansion, which is you go back to New York, and I haven't played it yet, but you can start off from level 30 and do that. But my God, I've forgotten how to play that game. Like, I had a build, I had some competency in the game, and now I'm just looking at stuff and like, how was I playing? Like, what am I doing? What does all this mean? Where are all the buttons? And it hurt my brain.
Yeah, I could see that. It's did you jump back in onto an old character that was already like advanced? Yeah. That is the reason why I have had to restart Final Fantasy over multiple times, because if I have to start at my old character, there's no way I'll remember how to play it. Even now, the character that I played with you, Nick, I would have to start all over again. And that's why I'm never going back to Final Fantasy ever.
I will relearn it. Because there's also like new signature weapons. Like, back in the game, you had the sniper rifle, the crossbow, or the grenade launcher. They added like a minigun, a micro missile launcher, and a flamethrower that you can actually put on your shield. So you can put up a shield, put up a flamethrower, and just walk towards people, which I'm looking forward to.
Pretty cool.
But it is gibberish to me right now. I will relearn it, but it is gibberish. I have no idea what I was doing, what any of my gear was, how I was playing.
I kind of feel like that's how I experienced Division 2, because I always played it just single player by myself, but it was always, the story was always just kind of, I ignored it, and I just went from checkpoint to checkpoint, shooting people, doing stuff, and then every now and then I'd look at my gear and like, hey, that number's higher, I'm going to put that one on. Oh, that number's higher, I'm going to put that one on. But honestly, like, playing single player, of all the gadgets that you can choose from, it seems like the only two relevant ones are the drone and the turret, because those kind of act as second players, because they can shoot people from different directions, they absorb fire, and everything else is like feels like it was designed for co-op.
And yeah, I mean, if you're playing alone, having extra gunfire helps. But when you're playing as a team, like, I did have a flamethrower turret so that I could throw it up on our side, and if anyone got close, it would kind of cover our flank. And then apparently I had a you have this little thing that can shoot canisters as an ability, and mine would shoot incendiary grenades. Well, I thought it was healing, so when I first started playing, I
very different.
Oh, you're that asshole. Got it. All right, I remember that guy.
I was playing on my own, and I was trying to get used to it. I got hit, and I was like, oh no, and I jump behind cover, and I'm almost dead, and I take this out, and I shoot my feet with it, and I suddenly am on fire, and I die. And that was like my first combat playing again. Like, that's not what it was for. I was wrong.
Oops.
But that gadget, I can throw the incendiary gas, and then you shoot it to detonate it. It's good if you hit people, but when you're in co-op, it's really good to flush targets out. So you have other people using different gadgets and firing, and then if you have one person who's behind cover that you need out of it, that's where you use a gadget like that rather than a turret or a drone. And there are multiple gadgets like that, and you should re-download it, Nick and Edie, and join me and my friend. You already agreed to it, Edie. You agreed to it 2 weeks ago.
I mean, you don't have to start over. You can just use your existing character.
I know.
Exactly.
I know.
And then they came out with the 100-floor summit tower thing that I'm looking forward to playing, like where you work your way up.
Although if we re-download to play with you, we can't play the DLC. We would have to buy the DLC.
Eventually, yes.
So I don't think either of us have the DLC.
You do get the season 1 pass with it if you haven't bought the season 1 pass already.
I may have bought the season 1 pass. I don't know.
Well, Nick, if you didn't buy the season 1 pass, you get every bit of content that they have came out with already with this expansion if you buy it.
That's cool.
I was a little worried when I was getting back into it because it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to buy both, and it's gonna be like $50. And then I realized there just wasn't the season 1 season pass, and I'm like, and I read through the expansion, like, yeah, you get all of it, which is nice.
Cool.
Corey Wallace wants to remind us that the Tuesday is the new ESO expansion release date.
ESO, what's that? I heard it's owned by Xbox.
I mean, I'm paying for it. I really should go back, or if not, cancel my subscription.
I heard it's owned by Microsoft, and you don't want to support that.
What do you mean? I've got 2 consoles coming in the next week.
I wonder.
That's so close. I forgot that's so close.
It's Tuesday. Mine has shipped. I got the notification. My Xbox has shipped. Now to get a PlayStation.
Where is it? Because mine and Ryan's are both in Ontario, California.
Let me tell you. I will look right now. Stand by.
Like that is seems to be like
where everything's shipping from.
The California shipping center.
Let's see. Where is it?
I have a week to decide if I'm going to drop $500 on a PlayStation.
Track shipment.
Yeah.
I want to upgrade my computer. I get the digital edition.
Oh, okay.
Mine's in Oakland right now. As of today at 2:31. So as of 15 minutes ago, it's in Oakland.
See, like, it's frustrating. I could just go there and pick it up.
No, I know. It's right there. Oakland is right there to me. So yeah, mine's on its way.
That's pretty good.
And I still have to wake up at 7:30 in the morning to go down to Best Buy to get the other one because I did not trust that Microsoft would get it to me on time. So I bought 2, and I still have it available if anybody wants to buy, not at a profit, just for what I paid for it. One of those consoles, you let me know. Andrew is in Kentucky or Malaysia. That's what Corey Wallace says. By the way, I don't know if you saw this in the chat room. I get those
confused all the time.
Corey Wallace said that he got fired. Where does it? He said he got fired because of their COVID policy.
Really?
Yeah. Corey Wallace says, I got fired for COVID policy violations. I'm glad for the time being now I can catch up on games like Breath of the Wild. That sucks.
That sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, that does.
I'm sorry, dude.
Doubly sucks that you're gonna spend all that time playing Breath of the Wild. Like, geez, why hurt yourself twice over?
You could just play Genshin Impact or Phoenix Rising.
I'm not the only one who bought 2, by the way. Ryan Stevenson seems the same. A coworker. Okay, good. I'm glad you've got somebody to offload the second one for. I still don't, but I'm pretty confident I will. Anything for you, Nick? Games?
Yeah, I played 2 things, but first, I got an invite to Amazon Luna. And they give you, it's something that you have to pay for, even though it's a beta.
Of course.
But there's a 7-day free trial. And when I got that email, it was Thursday. And I thought, that is just enough time to try this out before the new consoles come out and I'll be consumed by other games. So I signed up and I started playing Amazon's streaming games. And it's interesting seeing how that works, like, firsthand. Right now, the selection of games they have is not very big because Luna is going to be a Game Pass-like thing where you pay a fee to get access to a bunch of games, Netflix style, not Stadia style where you have to buy everything individually. So that in itself is good. The selection right now, there's like 30 games. And it's a good variety of things, mainly good for testing. Of like they have everything from a high-end shooter down to indie point-and-click adventures, and just a range of 30 very different experiences that it feels like are well suited to testing out the streaming capabilities. And playing it, it's been interesting to see what games do well and what games don't. The first thing I tried was Lumines, which is this rhythm puzzle game that originally came out on PSP, and that worked shockingly well. Like just really, really like timing perfect. Every time I hit the button, immediate response. It didn't feel like there was any lag at all. From there, I tried. Oh, what was the other game I tried? I tried something else, and it was good. Oh, I tried Grid, which is this racing game. And first of all, it's the way Grid gets you into the action is really cool. Because before you even get into any menu, it throws you into different types of races. So that was really cool because I didn't even have to sit in a menu before trying it out, and that also worked really well. If there was any sort of delay or lag in the controls, I honestly couldn't tell if that was because of the streaming or because of just the way the car handles. You know, in a racing game like this, there's not 100% perfect reaction where you move the control stick and the car moves. Like there's always that little kind of give as it rides back and forth on the road, and especially on a wet surface, a wet road, it felt slippery, and that seemed appropriate for the context. So that worked really well. Then I tried like one of the biggest games, Control. And Control had some significant difficulties. They were
Really?
all just little things. But they were little things that always added up. So there was a little bit of judder and stutter, like in some of the videos. But then when I was controlling it, the camera and the character would always keep moving for like just a half second after I'd let go of the controller. So, you know, if you're moving a character and then you stop, she would take like 2 extra steps and then stop. And with the camera, I would move it and it would go like, whoa. Yeah. Like it would move. I tried to move it a little bit and it would move a little
So
bit
it
and then
felt
jump.
squishy. That's the way I
Yeah, well,
describe squishy as like, you know, it's just not whip smart, responsive, or, you know, like you say, when it's sloppy.
Yeah, it felt inaccurate. And so especially when I'm trying to shoot characters from far away, I definitely noticed it with the triggers where I would aim at a guy and I would just mash that trigger over and over again to try to unload all the ammo into them. And I would hit that trigger like 2 times and then it would start firing because I'm just pulling the trigger too fast and there's a delay between that and the what I'm seeing happen on screen.
Right.
So Control was a little too much. My internet connection could not handle that. And then the other game I tested out was this like side-scrolling beat-em-up game called River City Girls, which is kind of a sequel to River City Rampage. And it started off good, but then like over the 30 minutes that I played, it feels like the controls got laggier and laggier as it went on. And I don't know if that's what was the cause of that, but I thought that was kind of interesting because that's a much less graphically intensive game than Control. And so I know there is one game on Luna that I genuinely want to play called SteamWorld Quest. And so I want to put some time into that before the new consoles come out and test that out. And that's like a card-based combat game. So I can't imagine it would tax the streaming a lot. But it's interesting trying out that technology. It works pretty well. It's impressive. I think if they expand the library in a significant way, it could be a really genuinely good way to play a game as long as you have the internet to support it. And even if you don't have the high-end internet, it could be a good thing it could be a good thing to play indie games on, but then Game Pass is that same deal. And if you don't have the internet to support a high-end game like Control, you may as well just get an Xbox where you can, play Control on a system dedicated to doing something like that, and then get all the indie games as part of Game Pass. So the streaming technology would have to become way, way more effective, because right now, Game Pass and Xbox feels like a better alternative than Luna. You get a better experience of the high-end games with the Netflix catalog of indie games with Game Pass. So it kind of offers everything, except it does have that high-end price, right? Like fucking, it's $550 for
Mhm.
that.
Right.
Or no, maybe like this good on Microsoft for doing the S, which is what was it? It's S is 200 or 300.
Mhm. The S is, I think, $299.
Okay,
Yeah.
like that's a much lower asking price, and for what you get out of that, I feel like most people would be better off just getting an Xbox Series S than getting any sort of streaming game service.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing with the Xbox Live Pass. They have kind of cornered the market, which was the point on like any type of subscription game service. Like nothing beats that currently.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of is no alternative.
Well, you have something like PS Now, which is the PlayStation streaming service that they tried to get off the ground, but I don't think anyone really took to.
Nah. So yeah, Luna's interesting, and I'm glad I got to experience that for 7 days for free. So that's neat.
Nice.
As for the actual games that I played, I played this game on Game Pass. Speak of the devil, called Katana Zero, which is this side-scrolling pixel art action game, and it's really fucking cool. I finished it, and my only problem with it is that the story doesn't have a resolution. It feels like it gets to the end of Act 2 and then ends and says to be continued, which is really frustrating because it has a really interesting story. You are kind of this assassin. You keep getting contracts by your therapist to kill these people, and your therapist keeps giving you these drugs.
Okay.
Best therapist ever.
Yes. And so as you go through each level, the story gets really, really it starts to really fuck with your head. And it has a really cool 80s VHS style where whenever something weird happens, there's always this kind of VHS style static effect. And so when you're in the actual game, it's a 2D action game, but you can always slow down time by holding a trigger. So it's very Max Payne-y in that way.
Mhm.
And there's something about the controls, it gets that feeling right. Where when you're jumping around a level, slashing at people, it just feels good and it feels fast. Being able to slow down time, it gives you enough of that ability. Like Max Payne, you kind of have a limited supply of it, but the moment you stop using it, it can refill. So there have been times in multiple levels where I would use that, jump into a room, clear the room as time slowed down, and then stop and kind of wait for it to refill. And so it constantly allows you to do lots of cool moves where you're hitting bullets back at guys, you're jumping down into the middle of a room, throwing things at guys. And whenever you finish a level, it replays it at normal speed. So all the things that you did will slow down, you see it fast, and that leads to a lot of cool moments of, watching a guy just deflect bullet, kill guy,
Kind of
in
like
half a
Super
second.
Hot in that way, where you just
Yes.
become like this ninja killer.
Yeah,
It makes you actually feel like you have skill.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then one of the other interesting things about the story is the way it handles conversations. It feels like a lot of the dialogue has these branching paths, and one of the coolest like dialogue innovations it does is there's a timer on all of your options, but what you can say at the very beginning of that timer is different from end. So once your dialogue options pop up, you'll see this little red bar, and that red bar lasts for about a second. And then and if you choose that option, that's like interrupting someone. It's like, I don't want to wait for you to finish. I'm just going to mash my response and interrupt what you're saying. And it has a really cool effect of like shattering glass sound, and then their conversation bubble like shatters and bursts into pieces and falls around. Or you can wait, and then all the options turn white, and suddenly you get a larger list of options because you actually listened to what they had to say and you can respond to them. So it's an interesting way of giving you the opportunity to create a character that just doesn't give a fuck and just like, I don't care what you have to say, die. I don't care what's going on, just give me my drugs. And it's just a cool little innovation in how dialogue trees work. And then beyond that, the combat is fast, fluid, it feels really good, the story's really interesting, it's stylish as all hell, and I'm just upset that the story doesn't have any real resolution to it. Because it's a genuinely interesting story that involves the drug you're being given and like altered perception of reality. So Katana Zero is a surprising, come out of left field game that I'd heard good things about, but once I tried it for myself, it is a cool as hell game.
That looks very neat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm actually thinking about going out and buying that because
Yeah,
that looked
me
awesome.
too.
They
Like,
I,
If you have Game Pass,
Good.
it's on Game Pass. That's
Yeah, I
the
know.
awesome
I
part.
don't.
Okay.
So a couple years ago at an E3 or PAX, they were talking about a game that was similar to that, where you could run in, you could slow down time, and your goal was to go through a level, take out everyone, but if you got shot, you restarted. And I think it was if you didn't move, you could like time would stop. But this seems very similar to that game, and I've been trying to remember what that game was for like
That
3
Super
years.
Hot?
No, it wasn't super hot because it was a 2D platformer where you played as a little ninja, and you'd go into a mission. Like there's levels and like there's people everywhere, and your goal is to kill everyone, and you could deflect bullets and all that. But if you got shot, it was over. Basically, if you got hit once, you'd have to restart the stage. And this reminds me of that. I don't know if this was exactly that game. I can't remember it.
Did you have
Somebody
like
in the chat room might remember.
did the character have like a leapfrog ability where they could jump into people and like knock them out windows?
No, like I said, it was 2D like that game.
Okay.
Katana Zero. And it was a kind of a platformer. But if you stop moving, I think time stopped. It was kind of like Super Hot. Or you could slow down time itself. And the goal was to basically like live, die,
Quantum
repeat.
Break?
Mark of the
It can't
Ninja.
be Mark
maybe.
of the Ninja, but time doesn't slow in that one. I'm trying to think because it feels I feel like you triggered some old abandoned memory way deep in the banks.
It was like a pixel game. Like the characters were like pixel art. Oh God, I don't remember it.
Mark of the
I can't
Ninja
remember
is
it.
really awesome. Okay, well, while the chat
Anyways.
thinks about that, I also finally got to play Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which I've been waiting for a while. And I thought this game actually came out on the 12th when the PlayStation launched. And so when I realized, it actually came out like the 6th, I just went out and bought it immediately. And it's funny because I know that it's remastered, but it doesn't look remastered. It just looks like how I remember the game looking, which I think is kind of the goal of remastered, because I think we always remember old games in higher definition than they actually are, just because we're influenced by current gen. So unless I see it side by side, I honestly couldn't tell you like what new effects, if any, that they added, but it looks like a good PlayStation 4 game, so I'll give it that. And more to the point, like what I was looking forward to with this game, and what I'm frustrated by with all the other Need for Speed games that have come out in the last several years, is that all of those games are fucking open world games. And what always happens is I spend more time driving around the open world, getting from point A to point B, than I do actually in a race racing. And this game is great because there is no open world. You're just on a menu and you're like, I'm going to do a racer event or I'm going to do a cop event. It's going to be a time trial. It's going to be a race. It's going to be like a hot pursuit, so, different types of races, but it's all just, here's a menu, select a race, you're in a race. That's it. There's none of this dicking around from point A to point B, looking at a map like, okay, where's my next objective? Oh, it's on the other side of this open world. Oh, I have to fucking drive there now. Okay, well, I'm just going to spend 5 to 7 minutes
hated that about
driving through this
Sunset
world.
Overdrive. I think Sunset Overdrive did that. I hated that about Sunset Overdrive, that you spent 15 minutes getting to where the race started.
Yeah. Sunset Overdrive wasn't a racing game. That was
That was like a weird, quirky action game that
yeah.
Microsoft was kind of like, hey, this is our first party title. And then
Which actually, I'm looking forward to
But it
playing
was
that.
that
once we
same
get
thing
into
where you
Xbox.
had to drive to wherever the start was,
Mm.
which was
Oh,
a pain
man.
in the ass.
Okay,
But
so
Or of course, I could
Yeah.
be remembering the wrong game.
as far as graphics go, I think you are right. Like, there's a lot of old games that I remember playing thinking, man, those looked fantastic. And then going back and like, oh no, this was garbage. This was hot garbage. But racing games have always been a little bit ahead of their time in graphics. Like, I don't know if it's just the nature of the game or what, but they've always looked gorgeous since like the PS3. And that holds true.
I've played the original Hot Pursuit on Steam not too long ago. Like I played it a couple years ago, and I remember launching it on Steam and playing it on the PC and thinking like, this doesn't look bad. Like it was still perfectly playable. So I'm just glad for the ability to have a racing game that understands I'm playing a racing game because I want to fucking race instead of explore an open world. Fuck.
Well, the last game I remember really like playing that was open world was Midnight Club, and I loved that game, and I 100%ed that game like 3 times, so I can't really say anything to that.
I mean, they're all okay open world racing games. I think the format doesn't work. I think it's like oil and water. You can mix it, sure, but they just don't actually fit together very well. But I do think Need for Speed Rivals, which is an open world game, is the best of those games. Like, if you have to play an open world Need for Speed game, Rivals is the best that those have been. But what I also like about this, because it's not open world, the track is the track. Because what I always have problem with in an open world racing game is I'm constantly looking at the map to make sure that I know where the next turn is coming. Because if I don't make that proper right turn, I'm going to keep going an extra block, right? I can go off track in a way that you can't do in a game like Hot Pursuit. In an open world racing game, the course isn't confined. Like, you can make a wrong turn and then just go completely off in the wrong direction. And that's always a little frustrating because, I spend a lot of time checking the map, taking my eyes off the road to check the map. And it always
That's how
feels
Kevin
a
and I
little
played
uncomfortable.
Midnight Club, is that one of us would have the map and call out, turn at the next, left turn at the next block, right turn at the next block.
There were
Was
your
it-
little GPS.
Right. Because you couldn't look if you didn't know, or if you hadn't done it a million times and didn't know the course, you needed someone else to call it out.
Yeah. And what's good about this game is, what's interesting about this game is the world does exist. Like, they did create this elaborate whole world, and all of the streets do interlock with each other. So it kind of is an open world. You just don't ever get the chance to explore it freely. You're always confined to courses. You always go to the menu and you always start at point A and go to point B, and that's it. And so that means that when you get to intersections where the road does split off into these other directions, they're just like these big fucking yellow signs that block the path. And like you actually hit those and bounce off of them. So it won't let you explore. And I like that. I like a racing game that just gives me a course to stay on. That understands that I can just get into a race with a button press, and more importantly, is an arcade racing game. Because I played Grid on Luna for a bit, and while that was fun, it was still like, shit. Every single time I get to a turn, I slam on the brakes and slow down and try to take the turn responsibly, and then I increase the gas, and it's just there's an arcade aspect to it because you can ram into people, but it's still a racing sim at heart, in that it wants you to drive responsibly. And Hot Pursuit is like, nah, motherfucker, don't let go of the gas. Just speed along, drift around corners, hit that nitrous. It was the spiritual successor to Burnout. And so short of having another Burnout game, this is as close as we're going to get to having another Burnout.
See, speaking of Burnout, and I was going to mention this, is what you're describing is the reason I loved Burnout Paradise, was because it just took that concept and went over the top. Like, you want to see a car flip 15 times like in an action movie? We got you. Just kind of hit their back wheel and they will tumble and not stop till everyone's dead. It's fine.
I do remember, I should get Burnout Paradise Remastered too, because I also remember Burnout Paradise had motorcycles, and the motorcycles were super fun.
That game in general was amazing. I played it like
Burnout Paradise
semi-recently.
was the one I was thinking of. Burnout Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Not Sunset Overdrive.
For as good as Burnout Paradise is, I do think it ruined the future of racing games because it was an open world racing game and it was good. And everyone else was like, let's do that. And they all fucking sucked.
Yep. All right. So any other games to talk about, my friends?
No, that's all I've been playing.
Shall we hit the news?
Sure.
All right. Let's hit the news.
One more thing before we go, or have you already started?
No, I've already started the music, but I can start it over again. What?
Just not me, but I have a close friend, Jay the Game Guru. He's been mentioned before. He recently played Legion, and he was hard on that game for a week since it released. And I just wanted to throw it out there if anyone was curious about the game. He says he loved it, that it was fantastic in almost every way. And he was a big fan of number 2.
What is Legion?
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs Legion.
Oh, okay.
And he said the best thing about it was you get these characters, you get badass, and then you start getting cocky because the game's kind of easy. But you'll hit these one hard missions, and then your character will die, and it's permadeath for that character. So you kind of get an emotion, a feeling when you lose a really badass character, and that keeps you going because you build up another character, and you're like, all right, yeah, I'm so cool, I'm so good, and the game smacks you for it. And
it's like XCOM in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone was curious, he praised it. He loved the game, and if you were thinking about getting it, apparently it's worth it. So that's all. Sorry.
That's good to know.
All right, then. Let's hit the news. This is the GameHounds News, the news, views, and commentary of the week in gaming with Gamer Edie, Andrew Smith, and Nick DiNicola. And our first item is... Don't all jump on it.
Okay, this might have led into last week, so if you guys mentioned this, sorry if I missed it. But there's a game called Everspace 2, and they delayed their game because Cyberpunk delayed theirs. Basically, Cyberpunk delayed so much, they're now into December, and it was in their same launch window, and they're like, you know what? No, we're delaying till January. We're not going to release with Cyberpunk.
So Cyberpunk got delayed into their space, and then they're like, oh, shit.
and they're like, "Fuck it, nope, we're delaying too. Nope,
Yep.
nope.
Like,
I'll just
and
have the salad."
they admitted it straight up. They're like, we're just gonna tackle this and be honest. It's because Cyberpunk got delayed. We don't want to be in the same launch window, so we're gonna wait.
I wonder why. Do you think there's a lot of crossover between Cyberpunk and Everspace 2?
I think
Doesn't
Cyberpunk
matter.
is
Doesn't
going
matter.
to take so much of the gaming share from so many communities
Everything.
that
True.
you just don't want to launch. Think about the clout that game has. Which, like, kind of related, but I'll bring that up in a second because this last delay really hurt a lot of people's confidence in the game. But your game has to be so anticipated that you make other companies delay because they don't want to be near you.
Right.
That's impressive.
I remember, I think the same thing happened with Red Dead, where the year that came out, that was kind of the only big game launching for that entire month because everyone else was like, no.
Yeah, no, they're just going to avoid it. Yeah, that's a smart. I mean, it's a smart decision. And on top of it, they get a little extra time to kind of futz around with it, tighten it up in places where maybe it wasn't quite tightened up.
And honestly, like the end of this year is, kind of bloated with a lot of big games between Watch Dogs Legion, Valhalla, Cyberpunk, Call of Duty, that Immortals, Phoenix Rising, a lot of big games. And so to bump yourself into January, which is much more open and sparse, like I think that puts you in a better space because you can be the big fish in a small pond in January.
Yeah. And I mean, I just thought it was hilarious that like a company was just like openly admitting, yeah, we're delaying because Cyberpunk. We just don't want to.
Yeah.
And in that same story, because they've delayed so much, CD Projekt Red stock price dropped 25%. Because they kept delaying, and I don't blame them for delaying because apparently they're getting ready to launch on 10 different consoles, 10 different platforms at once. Like that is insane.
Yeah.
So what is it 10? Because I counted. I think I got up to 6. There's PS4, Xbox. Well, PS4, Xbox One, PC.
Yeah.
PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S.
Yes. Stadia.
Oh, Stadia.
Yes.
Luna?
Would
I'm not
no,
sure
because
if it's
Luna's
Luna.
still in beta. Luna's still in beta. Would the other Xboxes count? Because you Xbox One X, but then there's also Xbox One,
Yeah.
and then
I
Xbox
think,
One S. Would those count as different?
I don't think so. I mean, I think like the Series X and the Series S are like they're the same thing, and the Xbox One and all of their variants are the same thing. So I think they count just in general.
Okay, because there's like 5 variations of Xbox by itself.
So I don't know. They're also, they're doing GOG, Steam, Microsoft Windows. Like I don't know if any of that changes anything.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if one of those different.
But they're just releasing everywhere, and I
Yeah.
think they may have taken off like too much of a bite. They're trying to please everyone.
It's impressive that they are launching on all those simultaneously.
Yes.
It's ambitious, to say the least.
Mhm.
I still think it's going to be good. Like,
I
no
still think
doubt.
it's gonna be good too.
But it is
that's
starting.
The thing. Even if the expectations around it may be a little much, but I expect it to, at the very least, be good.
And I mean, it's at this point, people are getting a little tired of the delays, also because they were all like, there's not going to be a crunch for the developers. That was part of the delays, but they found out, they were getting crunched. Like, pretty hard. And on top of that, another delay when they were like, no more delays, 2 delays ago.
Right.
People are starting to get a little annoyed. At this point, the game just kind of is going to have to be perfect. Like, everything everyone wants. We'll have to see, though.
Well, they just decapitated someone, so I'm on board. That was pretty cool.
with like
Watching that
arm
video.
blades.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. You couldn't do that in Deus Ex.
I wonder if you're going to be able to play like non-augmented or like as little augmented as possible. I wonder if that's going to be
Maybe.
something you can do. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully in December this year.
Hopefully.
Hopefully in December.
Yes.
My first item is Godfall. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there was a trailer that was released this week for the game Godfall, which is supposed to be, it is a PS5 exclusive for the new console. And in the fine print of the trailer, it says that it is exclusive not until 5/12/21. So it is not an exclusive; it is a timed exclusive, and there's no information on the disclaimer stuff or the fine print on it that indicates where else it might be going in May of 2021, but
I wonder.
clearly it can go to May of 2021. You wonder?
Well, there's like only one alternative, right? It'll go to Xbox.
It will
could
come
go
to Xbox.
PC.
I don't.
Oh, I
I
mean-
feel like PC is always excluded in those exclusive deals. Like no one counts
it's-
PC.
It's going to go to PC and Xbox for sure.
Mhm.
I remember seeing an article that it plans to release on Xbox for sure.
I'm definitely interested to see what people think of Godfall because that was one of the first next gen games announced, and I feel like it's one that we have seen the least of.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it got a lot of flack for looking like a mobile game, and I don't think like if you think this actually looks like a mobile game, you've been paying like way too much attention to the trailers of mobile games that show anything.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Exactly.
It's less like a mobile game and more of kind of generic looking medieval fantasy.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of action games in general, and the customization and the weapons and the combat all look amazing to me. So I am so on board with this game.
It
And
will
I'm going
live
to
or
get it.
die by that combat, by how that combat feels. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, you can't express that in a trailer. That's something you have to play and feel for yourself.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not my kind of game. It's just I can tell. I mean, it's totally your kind of game. Totally not mine.
You need to get some good taste, Edie. That's all I'm saying.
No, I just this is. Not
I'm
mine.
intrigued. I like a good action game. Give me a good action
I
game.
know this is also Nick's cup of tea. Just
I'll also be
not
playing
mine.
Demon's Souls though. Like
It does say it's available on PC, so maybe it's not. Maybe it's probably
so yeah. Whenever I feel like whenever a game says
Xbox One.
exclusive to a console, in the fine print it says it's going to be available for PC.
Oh, there it was. Did you see it right there? Let me back that up. Let me back that
No.
up right where it says. Hold on. Come on, right here. It says
PlayStation console exclusive, also available on PC, not available on other consoles until 5/12/21.
So yeah,
so
it's gonna come.
consoles. So it is
So
going to be
It's just going to go to Xbox.
Xbox. Yep.
In the chat, DJ Phil Collins has the best description of Godfall I have seen. He says it looks like Thundercats meets Warframe.
It sort of does.
Yeah, that's true.
It apparently it took a lot of inspiration from stuff like Warframe, but also one of my favorite book series, so it already has a special place in my heart. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. If you like fantasy, read it. Read it. And that alone, hearing that was one of their influences for the game, already made me want to play it. Like
You
outside
are
of the
such a
combat.
whore for Brandon Sanderson. You really
I
are.
am. I would do anything.
Not even gonna like deny it or couch it. No, I will totally suck his dick. Absolutely.
I am a fangirl, and like same thing for like Devil May Cry. Like, yeah, totally. Just
And EC Ray says that DJ Phil TB Collins, his description of it says, I was already interested and now more so.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad description.
No,
it's really
not.
accurate.
they now need to team up with Thundercats and get some cross promotion going.
Yep, that's a Forget Your Life says you need Lioness skins.
Snarf's the companion, right? Little cat thing.
Oh, that would be bad.
Have it like a little Navi that goes through the world with you.
voiced
The worst
by
part of
voiced by
Navi.
Tyrion Lannister.
Oh, yeah, Peter Dinklage, exactly.
Peter Dinklage can do it. Snarf, snarf, snarf.
So I have an update on Avengers,
All
the
right.
much maligned Avengers. Square Enix had a financial call, a financial meeting, or something last week, and they weren't specific, but they took apparently they took a 6.5 billion yen loss in the games division driven by Avengers, which comes out to about $63 million. They didn't say how many
Oh.
copies they sold, but, and this is a ouch part, apparently they only sold 60% of what they expected. And based on what a lot of the information comes out is, it's estimated that the game cost over 100 million to make.
170 million, they said.
Yeah, that was in the next tweet. So it cost about 170 to 190 million, but only sold 3 million copies. So it's definitely a hard financial hit for Square Enix.
It is a very good thing that they have Final Fantasy shoring that up, because that is a studio ending loss.
What happened?
We don't know.
There was no excitement for Avengers. Like,
Oh, there was
Well,
excitement for Avengers. I think
I
that
think-
people were very upset about the loot boxes. I think that they
But there are
overestimated
no
the
loot
interest in it.
boxes.
Not the loot box.
I think what happened is, the development itself took a long time to really get started. Like, the game hasn't actually been in active development of its current state for 5 years. I think it took them a while to, latch on to this is what we want the game to be. And then that version of the game, the game just kind of came in hot. But what didn't help that is COVID forced everyone to work from home, which really impacted their stream. A lot of developers had to leave their homes because of the California wildfires, so that really impacted it. So coupling with all that, plus a game that's already going to be coming in hot, the first month was spent fixing bugs. And
right.
that
It
meant
was horribly. I mean, over 1,000 bugs were fixed with their first patch, and that wasn't all of them by a long shot.
And what that means is that first month didn't see the next the next expansion content. So this is a live service game that hasn't had any new content since in the 2 months that it's been out, because they've spent all that time trying to fix the bugs and get it in a basic playable state. So that all kind of sucks.
And on top of that, I wouldn't say that the gameplay was necessarily mind-blowing.
That has the beta. Everyone universally agrees that the beta was bad, and the beta actively turned people off.
Right.
And see, that's kind of why I ended up buying it. Again, my friend Jay, the Game Guru, he bought it, and he was wondering if I was going to pick it up, and I was like, I'm going to wait, like, give me a couple months, and I ended up not getting the game.
Right. I
It's
think
going
that
to be
you are
fun.
very much typical of anybody who wasn't interested, didn't get interested because of the beta. Anybody who was interested and played the beta was like, maybe I'm going to hold off.
Yeah. It
And
is
then
going to
everybody
be
who
on
did buy
sale.
it was pissed off because it had so many bugs and in many ways wasn't very playable.
Best Buy is going to have it on sale for half off on Black Friday. And I think that's a good price because of all the reviews that say, the loot system is kind of busted, the live service is kind of annoying. Everyone says that the campaign and the story is actually really interesting. So it feels like Crystal Dynamics is the studio that made like the past 3 Tomb Raider games. And it seems that part of the game that's in their wheelhouse is good. A story-driven adventure game that they're used to making, that part of the game is good. But when you get past that into the end game, where you're meant to grind out loot over repeatable missions, that part is just feels empty and unfinished and confusing. So it feels like it's a good single player, or a good campaign with a bad end game on top of it.
And I'm wondering, like, in their development cycle, when the end game came about, like, did they focus on the campaign? Like, all right, we made this cool game, and then they were like, hey, we want this to be kind of a moneymaker. Figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like any good gaming disaster, I think everyone is waiting for the Jason Schreier article of what went wrong.
Right.
He's going to have another Anthem one, but for this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Well,
Which
I
actually
mean,
there was
there was that article I read, I found last week where it's just a matter of time before this goes free to play. He's like, this is, that's the next eventual step for this game is to go free to play.
I didn't see. I'm trying to find the news story because I sort of breezed past it. But EA actually did have an announcement about Anthem. It wasn't a big announcement, but it was just kind of an update of like, hey, here's what we're working on. We're changing this about gear. You're gonna, excuse me. You're gonna be able to like change gear mid-mission, and they're changing something else about the UI. But it's just the fact that they kind of shut Anthem down and said, hey, we're going to remake it, not from the ground up, but we're going to redo Anthem. And apparently they're still working on it because they had stuff to announce. Like I said, it wasn't a big announcement. It was just a blog post that was just like, hey, here's the little things we're working on. But the game is not dead, apparently.
And, honestly, that makes me want to try it. Like, if you stick with a game that has done poorly and you've tried to remake it, you've tried to keep it going, and you promise some giant overhaul, that makes me want to reward that. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to see more Mass Effect Andromedas where everyone was like, there's some issues here, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to continue the DLC that we had planned. We're just going to drop this game because apparently it's trash, and we don't want to worry about that. I like when game companies, they've committed to this, so eventually they should get it right.
Yeah. So yeah, if you ever see it on sale for like $5 over the holidays, maybe pick it up because it might be good in the future.
At that price, it's probably worth it.
It's an investment.
You could get
kind of
hundreds
like
of hours
having
of it.
PT on your console would be an investment. That it's probably gonna go away. You might as well own it.
Okay, I saw a news story. PT does not work on PlayStation 5s.
I know, I saw that too.
So that's important. They'll give me an excuse to hang on to the PS Pro, even though I haven't played that game since it came out. Just for posterity's sake, I'll never be able to get rid of that PS Pro.
Forget Your Life says Black Widow fighting superhumans with pistols and kicks never made sense.
They're really enhanced ammos and really strong kicks, so you don't know what you're talking about. Forget Your Life. Just don't. Okay.
Do you have a light on in your room? Do you not own a lamp at all?
I could, but I didn't want to turn off my camera to go turn on the light, so
You can
getting
always just,
this.
I could take you out of the stream for a second so you could go do that.
Why do you
I'll
have
be
to
back
turn off your camera to turn on the light?
Because be back.
What a dork. I get up and walk away from the show all the time.
He's not wearing pants.
You you know that. I know that. Didn't have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Put your pants on,
I could not
fucker.
be wearing.
And I
could not be
tried
wearing
not to
pants.
say that
We don't
kind of
know.
stuff out loud. Yes, but you don't have to get up, so
I'll take off my pants right now. You
Do
can't
it.
tell.
Do it.
And that's uncomfortable.
I'll do it if you do it.
anyways, back to the news.
All right, back to the news. All right, so my next item is we're talking about Watchdog Legion. So there was a little bit of a thing that happened this week. Watchdogs Legion had a voice actor. Is actually a British journalist named Helen Lewis. And once people recognized her voice, there was a bit of a complaints and protest about her. And she has subsequently been removed from the game. The controversy comes because Lewis has, she's a prolific writer. She's a British journalist, married to another British journalist. So she's wrote a lot of stuff. And one of the things that she has written was an opinion piece in 2017 where she criticized the UK for a law that aimed at simplifying the process of changing someone's legally recognized gender. For instance, instead of it being like you have to go through this big, huge process or go through any surgeries or whatever, you could actually very, very much more easily reclassify your gender for what you felt your gender to be. And she criticized this with one of the quotes being a woman or a man is now entirely in your head. In this climate, who would challenge someone with a beard exposing their penis in a women's changing room? Well, that took a lot of heat, being that she's kind of an extreme feminist, and a lot of people were like, fuck you. That goes right along the same lines of like, ooh, gay men are pedophiles, that kind of thing. There's literally been no case of a transgender woman showing her intact male genitalia in a changing room. It just hasn't happened. So she took a lot of heat for that, just to say that. Because of that, when people recognized her voice in the game, they complained to Ubisoft about her being a controversial figure. And so Ubisoft, given that they are now very adverse to controversy, especially stuff to do with gender politics, they have removed her with the statement of, quote, neither Ubisoft nor the game reflect this journalist's viewpoints. The development team worked with an external producer to select speaker profiles for these podcasts. And she is one of the podcasts that you can listen to in Watch Dogs Legions. So yeah, they worked with an external producer to select profiles for these podcasts and were not aware of the controversy at the time of booking or recording. While in-game broadcasters are following a pre-approved script and are not speaking their own name or with their own opinions, we understand this collaboration itself may be seen as offensive, and we deeply regret any hurt that it has caused. In response, we will be replacing these 2 podcast episodes in an upcoming update, and will reinforce our background checks for partners in the future. it probably has less to do with her opinion and more to do with that they want, if there is even the slightest whiff of controversy about anyone in their games, they are going to run back away with all force possible.
Yeah, they're going to throw anyone under the bus and away from any of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do not feel safe. Do not expect Ubisoft to back you up on that stuff. No.
Nope.
Any more outrage, they're like, we have no more standing. We can't. We got to go.
Yep. So yeah, that happened this week. And, there's a part of me that it's like, wow, it kind of sucks that someone's opinions would affect their job. At the same time, opinions get when people are opinionated and are journalists and put their opinions out there, you have to expect that will affect your ability to get voiceover work, and make you a controversial figure, regardless of whether you're right or wrong. You have to kind of take both sides, by making your opinions known. At the same time, I also applaud Ubisoft, at least in the fact, wow, your face just went totally dark. Andrew, there we go. You've got to keep your screen on. No dark screens, because otherwise you just turn it into a silhouette. But good for them that they are taking the whole gender politics thing so very seriously that a contracted voice actor is out at the first whiff.
Mm-hmm. Although I like AC Wraith in the chat says that she'll probably be a voice in a Harry Potter game now.
Probably. I was gonna say this treaded pretty close to the
J.K. Rowling
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But I gotta
although probably not, because Warner Brothers went to lengths to distance that game from J.K. Rowling. So
Forget Your Life says it totally sucks. Everyone will just be robots soon with no opinions outside herd mentality. I think it's less that. I think that people that want to make public opinions have to very much consider that, decisions are decisions. If you want to make certain decisions in your life, you've kind of got to realize that it's going to close doors in your future. And one of those things that you have to consider is being a journalist with an opinion is going to necessarily create controversy. So the question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a public opinion that is expressed, or do you want to be neutral?
I mean, it's also a bad opinion.
It is
a transphobic, prejudiced opinion.
It's a transphobic, prejudiced opinion.
You can stand by your bad opinions. Breath of the Wild is a terrible game, and I will probably never get a sponsorship by Nintendo because of that. But
Right.
I stand by that opinion.
Right.
This
terrible
is
game.
Great though, because there's something wrong with your brain, and I don't think that equates here. So.
So anybody got another item?
Yes. We were talking about Mass Effect just earlier, and EA has announced, they apparently, November 9th is N7 Day, because Mass Effect, the thing, I forget what N7 was in the game, but it's something the main character wears on his or her
It's their squad.
vest.
Their squad name.
Is it squad? Okay. N7's the name of the squad. So for November 7th, EA announced Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Or was it Legendary Edition? Yeah, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is all 3 games in one package with all of the single player DLC.
Or you can just buy
BioWare
the first game, first 2 games, and not buy the third game because it's terrible.
The third game was fun.
Andromeda was awful. Awful.
That's the fourth game meeting.
Oh, it's not included? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah,
it's the fourth.
This is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
This
1,
is the
2,
Commander
3
Shepard trilogy. And so BioWare is not calling this a full remake. So they're not going to go in and, redo everything, but they are basically spiffing it up. So maybe the same way EA spiffed up Hot Pursuit for next consoles, because look, Mass Effect came out on 360 and it was a good-looking game at the time. It's probably not groundbreaking now, but I'm sure it holds up. So
It does.
they're basically, spiffing it up to make it look good. It's going to launch for Xbox One and PS4, with the next-gen editions having, bells and whistles to take advantage of the new consoles. But there's not like a PS5 version or anything like that.
But you didn't mention the thing that I put on there, which is what I was going to talk about, was that in
What?
the middle of that conversation that was being done with Casey Hudson talking about the Mass Effect Legendary, he confirmed that there is a new Mass Effect game being worked on. There is definitely a new Mass Effect on its way. So let's see where I have to find it first. Where I put it on there is I've got to let's see. Yeah, they've officially finally confirmed their remaster of the Mass Effect trilogy, and they also did say that a veteran team has been working hard at envisioning the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe. We are in early stages on the project and can't say any more just yet, but we're looking forward to sharing our vision for where we'll be going next. And that was said by Casey Hudson, who is the Mass Effect god. It's been rumored for about a year that they have had something in the development, but this is the first time that they've actually had a word out of someone's mouth that said, yes, we are working on something. So another Mass Effect, hopefully to redeem themselves after that steaming pile of diarrhea that was Andromeda.
Okay, so I
Tell me how you really feel.
I enjoyed the gameplay of Andromeda, like the actual comp.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just drop? Did you? I'm sorry. Did I hear something? Oh, the connections got real bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure did.
You who just criticized Nick for complaining about Breath of the Wild have the unmitigated giant donkey balls to say that Andromeda wasn't that bad?
You took me out of context. All right. First of all, I think the Andromeda maps were gigantic and overbloated, and they tried so hard to make it an open world game when it clearly shouldn't necessarily have been that. I just said, like, the trees and the actual mechanics was still Mass Effect mechanics, and they added to it, and it was enjoyable. I liked killing stuff in that game.
I mean, you're not the only one. I've heard the general consensus on that game, I think, is, hey, they made the combat real fun and fast paced and cool. It's just no one really cared about the story or the characters.
I turned into a melee fighting biotic god in that game where I would teleport around and like just hit people over and over again with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that immensely. I turned it up to the hardest difficulty and it still worked. That is a win in my book.
That's cool.
It is a very, very small win.
Yes, of course. But, I mean, everyone talks complete shit about it. I just did, a little bit ago. But there has to be something nice to be said about it.
Yeah, all right. All right. I will give you that. I played it all the way through. I played it at Andromeda all the way to the end. I absolutely did. I didn't hate it until it was in the end game, and it was just like, this isn't even really an effort anymore. But why am I still playing this? Because that story was bad. And
I like
Mass
the premise
Effect
of it.
Has to have the story. That is what makes Mass Effect so good. Was the story, were the characters that you absolutely, more than just about any other game, cared about in a very, very visceral way. Garrus to this day is still my best friend. Best friend I ever had was Garrus.
And
And that
Tali's
says
best
a lot
wife.
about my life, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. There's not a lot of good to say about Andromeda, and it does suck that they dropped it before they fixed it.
Mhm.
But I did enjoy the premise. I like the idea of going to a new galaxy away from the
Yeah.
established universe.
I think that's really, really good too.
But yeah, so new Mass Effect, hopefully a redemption. We will see. I don't believe Casey Hudson was involved with Andromeda, right? Am I wrong on
I
that?
think he was working on Anthem.
Right.
They put a B team on a triple A tier team, or like triple A game, like a game series that had a bunch of clout. They basically threw studios together and like, do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
They tried their best, but no.
Yeah.
Oh, did you spend $100 on the collector's edition of Andromeda?
Did
For
you?
anyone who's on the audio edition, it is nodding her head. You may not be able to see it, but it's there.
This is my game face. Yes, I did.
I mean, it seems like
that swallow was very much intentional.
What did you get for that?
I don't remember. I tell you what I got for that. A really shitty game. A really shitty game.
Something that weighed down a trash can for a week.
A deep seething bitterness that will never leave me. That's what I got for
I mean,
$100.
you could have gotten that for
Unless-
$60.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, but there's not as much hatred if it's not the collector's edition.
No, yeah, $60 worth of hatred for that game versus
that extra
$100
$40 just
extra
adds
40
to the loathing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You get so much more.
I mean, I'm willing to try it again. Mass Effect was such a good series that, yeah, I mean, if they come out with a new game, I'm probably going to play it.
I'm probably going to play it. I won't. You know what? Here's what that $40 got me. It got me the ability to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to wait until that's out for a couple of weeks before I actually buy that game. That's what it bought me. The ability to stand back and just say, no, we're going to let somebody else take that bullet this time.
If they put talent behind it, it will do well.
Yeah.
That's
Forget
all
Your
it
Life
needs.
says for that extra $40, we got weeks of angry podcasts. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
true.
you did. Yeah. Oh, AC Ray says, what if someone played Andromeda as their first Mass Effect game instead of the last? Oh, man. Oh.
They got a
need an
damn
intervention.
shame.
They need an intervention. They need someone to actually, hug them. They kind of need to go through a little bit of rehab, I think, to explain to them that this game is not terrible. And you and I, Chaos, we played the multiplayer a lot.
It was a clone. It was a clone of 3's multiplayer almost to a T.
You know what? It was sort of a clone, but not as good. 3's multiplayer, we played a shit ton of that.
Actually, a friend of mine bought it on PC for me, 3, and we played the multiplayer, and I'm like, yeah, this holds up. This is still a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, no, I would absolutely go back and play that. I think I have that still? I may still have that. Because that multiplayer in 3 was sandboxy and not very inspired and fun as fuck. Vorcha runs to this day are one of the favorite things that I have ever done. Right up there with the Gears of War beast mode with the tickers, playing the tickers. Oh, God. Fuck, that was fun.
For anyone who don't remember what Vorcha runs were, there was a character in that game called Vorchas that had really high regeneration and wrist flamethrowers, and we would all four just get that character because normally it's a cover-based shooter, and we'd run around as a pack burning things to death,
just annihilating just melting shit in our paths. We didn't even hide. Like occasionally you'd hide if you needed to reload, but most of the time you just walked as a 4-man back to back to back and just wiped out everything. Oh, so much fun. Vorcha.
So-
Vorcha.
so-
let me see if I can find a Vorcha run on YouTube.
While you look for that, I'm gonna try to tamp down on this love for Mass Effect multiplayer, because I remember being really annoyed. There were tiers to it, like you could go into a run in like bronze, silver, or gold, and that was basically the difficulty level, easy, medium, or hard. And depending on what you did, you got like equipment from it, and that equipment, I forget exactly what it did, but it made your character better. The gold difficulty was such that you needed this equipment. You needed a good piece of equipment to basically to make the gold level playable. The problem was all of that equipment was one-time use. So that forced you, or at least forced me, to grind out bronze or silver level runs to get the equipment and then try a gold level run. And if you didn't pass that gold level, or even if you did, that equipment was gone. And you had to go back to grinding out bronze and silver before you could try gold again. And that just felt disgusting.
You hated
That
that.
just
And I
felt
loved it. I
awful.
loved it.
Okay, so I don't know how long you played it because
Not
you
very
are
long.
in. Okay, you're partially correct, but you're missing some key things. First of all, you play those first levels to get your character's level, to get more skill points, obviously, so you're stronger. But you also got permanent upgrades in the way of guns. Every time you went through, you'd unlock either a new gun or a higher tier of one you had. So you would get permanent upgrades that way. And then you would get attachments for the guns that weren't one-time use. So there were ways to get power increases without using the one-time use items. You did have to grind for it, though, because it was like proto loot box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It was a proto loot box.
I mean, it is exactly loot box, but it was like one of the first, essentially.
Yeah.
It was very basic.
Yeah. And I bought a lot of loot boxes on that game. I'm not going to lie. I bought a lot of loot boxes.
And
They
it
were
did.
fun.
One criticism of it is that they started releasing characters and weapons later on, and it wasn't a big deal because it's PvE, but those characters were overpowered. They were much stronger than the previous version characters. Like, there was a Krogan warlord who couldn't be one-shot by, like, the Banshees or the Brutes. Something that all the other characters had to, like, keep spacing. This thing could just run up and, like, start meleeing it with his giant hammer. And that alone was incredibly overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kept releasing characters like that. So that the first round of characters, if you only played when you first started, seemed kind of generic and weak. But as the game progressed and they released like 6 DLCs for it, those were awesome. Those characters were unique,
Right.
and cool.
And here's the thing is that when they released something that was terribly overpowered, it usually had a weakness. And because you couldn't always pick your enemies, most of the times you just did as a random, right? That you would have to pick your class before you would pick your actual enemy. Sometimes if you picked up the Krogan and it was against an enemy that had a one or two different class of characters that you would be facing that actually you were not very good against, you had to reassess how you were playing it or rely upon somebody else to be kind of like, okay, the Vorcha, let's get the Vorcha in there ahead of me so that I can take care of the distance stuff, and then that I could take care of the cold. It just forced you to work together.
It's sad you never stuck with it, Nick, but it was fantastic.
Vorcha,
I had
oh
better
god,
things to play.
just talking about a Vorcha. What's really funny is you go online and I don't see anyone online having a 4-man Vorcha run like we did.
Oh no, I don't think it was like a thing. We just did it because it was fun. 4 flamethrowers. That was the start of it. It was just.
And I'm really surprised more people didn't do it because it was fun. It was absolute chaos. It was like a golf drive and a tile bathroom at all times. Everybody was just running around as fast as they can, flaming everything down and running somebody else, flames up. It was just so much fun. It was like being alive. I loved Vorcha runs. You were just a nut job. Like everybody else, like, all right, everybody group up together. It's like, fuck you! And you were off. You're like Leroy Jenkins, everything. I loved it.
I know. I'm happy that people enjoyed it.
All right, I'm glad. So
If I still had an Xbox 360, I might say we should go back and try it, but I don't.
I have gone back years later to do Vorcha runs, and they're just fun.
Did you find people still playing?
Well, there's still people playing, especially like on PC.
Mhm.
It's a fun game. Like, it's a tiny map and it's just a wave defense, but it's done well. It's the reason why I want to try Anthem. If you don't know, if you haven't played Anthem, outside of the Warframey aspects of it, it plays like Mass Effect, combat-wise. It has
I played the beta and I didn't like it.
the powers for it all kind of feel like Mass Effect. The way like certain UI elements, like when you have a cooldown, there's this bar that goes over your crosshair. That's almost exactly like Mass Effect, and the effects are very much the same thing. Like in Mass Effect, if you use the electricity power and then you use the flamethrower, you'd get a tech burst. That exists in Andromeda, folded out to like having a couple more unique effects. And they basically just took that gameplay and put it in there.
Oh, here we go. Somebody's got a Vorcha run online. Looks like.
It's going to be us. Someone recorded us.
No, it's not us. But we were insane. It's just poor Vorchas just.
Because I think we did this too, where if we didn't have the flamethrower, we all had like this lightning shotgun, and that's all we would do. We just run around burning or like electrifying stuff.
Yep. Yeah, the lightning shotgun. Oh God, that thing was great. Man, I could feel the addiction just like rising in me right now. Just looking.
80
at
wants
this.
to play again.
Oh God, best
Anyways.
gaming experience so far. Anyways, next item. Anybody?
I'm out.
All right. I got a couple more. Let's see. We were talking. Did we talk earlier about Take-Two? Yeah. Did we talk about?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
All right. Let's see. First off, two Take-Two stories. Take-Two is in talks right now to purchase Codemasters of Dirt and F1 fame. They're looking to acquire them, and I think I saw 170 million pounds. I want to say. Now this, I could be wrong. I could be mixing up something else. There was a quote. It was a shit ton of money. But VGC has reported that Take-Two, which already, of course, owns the publishing labels 2K, Rockstars, and Private Division, they announced that they has made a non-binding proposal to acquire Codemasters. Their entire share capital in it, and this was they announced that in an internal statement this week. Codemasters has already said that its board intends to unanimously recommend that its shareholders accept the deal. So it looks like, assuming nothing else happens, that within a very short period of time, Codemasters will be part of the Take-Two stable of games or stable of studios for a lot of money.
So it turns out it was, I thought you said it was 200 something million, but it was 740 million pounds.
Oh, that's what it is. 740 million.
Which
pounds.
comes out to about $970 million. So just under $1 billion.
Under $1 billion.
So
yeah, I was
Bethesda, but
170, I think, was left over from the cost of Marvel. That never got in my head.
Oh yeah.
All right. The other thing is that Strauss Zelnick said this week he thinks that they should be asking for more than $60 for their games. And you can get your own opinion based on what he says. He was asked by an investor.
Depends on what games he's talking about.
You will hear his reasoning in a moment. I have my own opinions. I want to hear yours. He said, asked by an investor about it in a recent financial call about whether the company should consider titles like Grand Theft Auto free to play. He said that titles like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption for $60, they're fine, but they do both have these very massive online components that he says are really free of charge that go with the game. And he says, quote, "We deliver the highest quality experience in the business, and we charge much less for them than we believe they're worth to customers. And then we deliver typically an ongoing component that is free, and that's already a great deal of value at any monetization. Of course, it's totally optional. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that at some point certain experiences can become free as a matter of the entry point. I like what I consider tethered free to play, where 100% of the people acknowledge the value and the title and pay to play it. And as an ongoing basis, you have what is effectively a free to play experience attached to that. Can go for many years. Grand Theft Auto Online, of course, has been successful for 7 years and is expected to see a new record in the fiscal year, amazingly enough. So bottom line, he says that he thinks that they should be charging more for these games because they provide this free-to-play online experience.
So, Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, yes, absolutely. NBA 2K21, fuck off.
Yeah. No, I even disagree with that. And here's why.
Really? Games should have been $70 a long time ago.
Anybody that
Witcher
is playing
3 should have been $70.
Anybody that is playing that online with never having spent a single penny on it is rare and non-existent at this point. They go in, they play it, and then they leave. People that are still with it have been purchasing upgrades, have been purchasing DLC, online DLC. I would agree with them were it not for the fact that both Red Dead Redemption's online multiplayer and Grand Theft Auto's multiplayer are not making them fuck tons of money. What they're saying is that we should be charging you more because you've got this online component, but they're already making record amounts of money on this online.
Yeah, I mean they are making absurd.
Going broke on their multiplayer. Their multiplayer by far is making them so much more money.
But even outside the multiplayer,
they should be paying us to play their multiplayer because they make so much money on it that they could give away that base game for free and still be making shit tons of money.
Probably
sure,
more.
That feels like it's an exception to the rule. And also, considering those two games from Rockstar, like Red Dead and GTA specifically, the single player alone is worth $70. Like the single player games, regardless of whatever they add to it, like those games are big enough, they justify a $70 price tag. Right. Hands down.
I agree.
Okay. Like multiplayer, regardless of it, like those two games should be $70. I don't know off the top of my head what else Take-Two does. I think they've done Borderlands 3. That's maybe not a $70 game. Take NBA 2K21, definitely not a $70 game. Like it depends on the game. It's a case by case basis. But
right, I think he was specifically talking about things where they have the perpetual, the large online multiplayer, and the multiplayer aspect of these games break down in my mind into two different demographics of people that play them. People that go in and play that multiplayer for a little while and then they stop and move on. That's me. Then there's people like Andrew who go in. Well, you were Red Dead, weren't you?
Oh,
Red
I
Dead,
did. Yeah, but I came back like months later. Like,
right? But we're a bunch of people that were playing it with you that go on. They play the shit ton out of it, and then they just keep playing it, and they buy everything. They buy so much, and this is their MMO,
okay.
and
Mhm.
spend a lot of money on it. And I should not be, as someone who wants to go in as a tourist, I shouldn't be taxed at the same rate as someone
But you're
who
not
is
taxed
living there.
because when you buy that game, you're getting the single player as well.
Right. And that's the way it should be. And what he's saying is, I think that we should charge more for the game because it's got this multiplayer component.
And I think
And it
that's a
is.
solid
But the
case.
thing is that
If
I
if you're
don't.
if you're saying I'm gonna pay $70 for a big ass single player campaign and a big ass multiplayer, yeah, what's wrong with that?
But I'm not going to play the multiplayer for very long. And if I do, I'm going to give them a shit ton of money to play it.
Okay, so I'm gonna come at this from a different angle, just
All right.
because.
Okay.
What it seems like, from our perspective as the consumer, that extra $10 is arbitrary. It's going to be down to personal opinion because there's going to be people who played Borderlands 3 and thought, yeah, okay, I would have paid $70 for this. You may
I
not
would've
have.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. But the question is, there's no way to like remove opinion out of that from the consumer side. It has to
Mhm.
come down to just money. Like, are they losing money making these games because they're not charging that 10 extra dollars? Or do they simply want more money? Like, is the reason they're pushing for $70 because, man, we're cutting it really close and we're cutting it close every year? Or is it because, yeah, we thought it was a good time to make 10 extra dollars on each purchase? That'll come down to just culture and what's acceptable. For instance, GTA 5 on release date within 24 hours made nearly $1 billion. I don't know how much it made, like, to make that game, how much it cost to make that game,
Nowhere near
they-
$1 billion.
but they
Not a
made
billion.
$1 billion. Like,
But
giving them 10 extra
also,
dollars on top of
G-
that is not. Go ahead.
GTA 5 is an exception to every rule of anything in the gaming industry.
Sure, it is.
It is
top
not the
quality stuff.
standard
How much did
bearer
Red Dead
of
make
anything.
within 24 hours? Red Dead 2 made a lot of money just on the base game.
Yes.
But we're using Red Dead when in the article they're using GTA 5 as the benchmark. So they've opened up
Which they
this
should
idea
not
that
be doing because it is
Exactly.
not the benchmark of anything.
Right.
it is the best. Like, if it is a
I mean,
benchmark, it is.
even then, the GTA multiplayer is wildly successful beyond anyone's expectations. Even Red Dead 2's multiplayer, it's been successful, but nowhere near the level of GTA. Like,
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
when they made that, they didn't expect it to be that successful. When GTA Online came out, it was shit. Like, it was
It was
genuinely
unplayable,
bad.
and we played it anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, I
they
remember
fixed it over time. But
I was there the
You
first
couldn't
night
you
the
couldn't
online
even
went on.
log in. Oh my
Yeah.
god. And when you got in, it felt like you won the
And then
lottery.
you just lost your
And
progress.
remember, like, it wasn't even part of the original game. Like, when GTA 5 came out, the online component wasn't there. It came a month later as like a free update. And so when you're talking about, raising the price of games, those are two very unique exceptions. And the thing is, game development is super expensive, and it's only getting more expensive. And it is wildly more expensive than gamers think, like to an insane degree. And so, yes, it is by and large time to increase the prices of games. As much as
Well,
I
I
may
mean-
personally bitch and moan about paying $70 for Demon's Souls, like, that game probably cost a fuck ton to make,
Right.
to justify that.
I'm not
But the thing
arguing
is,
the price of games. I'm arguing Rockstar's and Strauss Zelnick's assertion that maybe we should be charging more for the games that we add these massive multiplayer components to in the after game, because there's so much more. And I would disagree with him, because it's not like you lost money on making Grand Theft Auto
So here's the thing, though,
online.
and this is
You
something
made more money on that than anything else that you have ever put out. Why would you
but
It was
actually
so
charge us
popular.
more just to have access to it to decide if we wanted to keep going?
It was so popular that it stalled any Rockstar development of any game for like 5 years.
Right.
Like it kept
So-
the company afloat for 5 years.
here's the reason. The reason you do that is something DJ Phil Collins brought up, is that he says it sounds like they're trying to front load their profits so they're more insulated from a flop.
True.
They want to charge more because the next thing that wants to try to be GTA Online might not be. They want to charge at $70 for adding in a free, huge, expansive multiplayer option, because just in case, no one fucking plays it. And then
Okay.
and then your
Well, they've
entire
done it
argument
twice.
about how they get money.
They've done
Rockstar
it
has done it twice.
and they've
Rockstar did it twice.
Yeah, he's
Right.
leading other games.
Rockstar has done it.
Only
And they're only
Rockstar.
talking about themselves. They're not talking about the whole industry. They're talking about themselves. They've
No,
done it
but
twice. It has
Take-Two-
both
Take-Two
times
is
made
talking
them more
about
money than the
all
base game.
Take-Two's games.
Yeah,
Take-Two
no,
is talking about all of Take-Two's games when the examples they're doing are just Rockstar. Which
no,
again, Rockstar is always kind of the exception.
no.
because
They
their
were
games have the
Strauss Zelnick
pedigree
was
behind
specifically talking about the types of games like Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, where there is the multiplayer, the expansive multiplayer part.
So if you're narrowing your scope to
we-
just Rockstar
we
games,
deliver the
you make an
highest
even
quality
bigger
experience in
argument to
business.
increase
We
the
charge
prices.
much less for them than we believe that they're worth to customers. And then we deliver typically an ongoing component that is free. And that's already a great deal of value at any monetization. Of course, it's totally optional.
Yes.
Okay, so
How can you
If-
argue like those games are already so big they deserve to be $70, and then when you add in a big multiplayer on top of that, that just justifies even more.
why do
think
they deserve to be $70? Do you just think that you should give them more money because, like, those games still made
Considering
insane?
how long, because how long those games are in development and how much it costs to make and how big those games are, yes, you could charge $70 and make a strong argument for that.
But they
I
still
don't necessarily
made
disagree with
more
that. when
money.
you're
I
talking
don't
about base-
care how much they made. I don't care how much they made. I'm looking at how much they cost and how long it took to make.
I'm talking about
That
profit.
is the
Yeah.
no, but
You're
ignore profit.
talking about development cost versus price. Andrew is talking
Yes.
about profit versus
Profit
development cost.
doesn't-
And that's a
profit doesn't
different
matter.
thing.
Because profit, you can't predict profit going into a game's release.
No, but you can't say
What you
I'm gonna
charge, what you charge for a game should be determined of how long it took you to make it and how expensive it took to make it. That is what you use to justify the price.
Anthem took a decade to make and it came out as shit. Should that have been $70? You can't know before you.
EA, well, it actually didn't take a decade to make, but EA could have made an argument for $70 and then people could reject that or accept it. Everything we talk about, like, we have the benefit of hindsight in talking about profit for all these games.
Right.
Do you think
That's the-
Cyberpunk should be $70 or $60? I think CD Projekt, based on the track record, has a solid argument to make that if they charged $70 for that, I don't think people would complain.
But I
But
think
that
that you're
argument
arguing
is not-
apples and oranges based on what Strauss Zelnick said. Strauss Zelnick is not talking about things like single player game experiences like the base game of
No, but he's talking about an addition to a game that costs extra resources and extra manpower and extra financial investment.
that
Okay.
they overwhelmingly was successful based on
In
the way
this
that they
instance.
did it, which was they like, hey,
In this
here's this
instance.
multiplayer, we're putting it out. And two out of two instances that they've done it, it has been wildly profitable for them.
Okay, so If
I don't
you're going
think.
to
Okay,
argue
I'll just
development
say
costs,
I don't think in any world, if the next Rockstar game is $70, I don't think anyone will go, "That's not right." Everyone will go. Everyone will bitch and moan about it, but they'll also go,
But they'll pay
"Yeah,
it.
but it's a
They'll buy it.
Rockstar game. They're big. Yeah, sure, that makes sense."
Yeah.
this is more of a hypothetical argument because I agree. I think people are going to buy it regardless. But if you're bringing up development costs, the only reason you worry about that is profit margins after the game comes out. And each game that you release is
Mhm.
going to be a risk. If your argument is you're going to take more risks, but we're going to charge more for that, sure, but that's not what's going to happen. We're going to get the same generic stuff. We're going to get the same generic Call of Duty for $10 more. And if they still
Yeah,
made
but
money on that,
also the same generic Call of Duty costs more to make for PS5 than the same generic Call of Duty costs to make for PS4.
how do you know though? Because with Unity Engine,
Because
with
4K is more expensive than regular.
not necessarily. If
Yeah,
you
it
have
is.
stuff like the Unreal Engine, if you have Unity, if you are putting those tools into one spot and those are becoming standards, that
Mhm.
makes games
Mhm.
cheaper, not more expensive to develop for. You
It
get
makes
people
it
who are
easier. It does make it easier, and it does cut down on those costs. But 4K textures still take more effort to make than 1080 textures or 720p textures.
there are more pixels, yes, but I don't think that level of complexity means it's going to cost
No,
tens
it
of
absolutely
millions
does.
more.
Modeling a character at 4K takes a greater time and artistry than modeling them at 720p. Like, you're going to have the technology behind it is more comprehensive. Subsurface refraction and scattering, skin, pores.
But we get tools that congregate and make that easier, thus decreasing the cost of those projects.
Yes, but not
If you've
not to
looked
the
at game
degree,
development,
not to that significant of a degree. Game development, regardless of the engine and regardless of that, game development does get more expensive with each generation.
as much
Like,
as
that is a
anything,
cold
like
hard fact.
inflation goes up, but I
No,
don't necessarily know
not
if
just because of
I'm
inflation.
looking up to see if there's I don't see anything online that suggests that actually compares development costs in 4K versus 1080p.
Well, that's because
less.
game studios are like notoriously secretive about costs.
The ultimate argument is you're basically saying they should get more money because they tried hard. Not
Well,
like it doesn't matter how
not
much.
that they should get more, but they should charge more. They have an
If
argument to charge more.
my
Yes.
point is that if they are still making hundreds of millions of dollars, they've gotten back that investment, that extended cost, how much it costs to make. Is that enough? Or do they need another? If they've made $400 million on profit, like that is after they got back the money for the cost of making the game, do they deserve 450 million?
If it's a good game, yeah.
Then that's completely just an arbitrary choice, not for like money
Yes.
or
But this
It
is
kind of
again
is.
devolved into what you're talking about seems like as a single player experience. And what Strauss Zelnick is saying is that Take-Two should be charging more for its games because it's got this multiplayer game that goes with it. And I would argue that that multiplayer experience standing on its own the way it's currently priced is wildly popular and makes shit tons of money. Why would you charge me to try your multiplayer experience? If that's the case, that might be fine, but I would recommend that just release a Red Dead Redemption MMO and don't make me have to. If you're going to want to charge me more for your multiplayer experience, I can guarantee you I am going to be a tourist there. I'm going to go in, I'm going to try it. If I like it, I'm going to be spending money. If I don't like it, I am going to drop it and I'll feel completely fine about it.
And see, Where I land on
Release
this
it as a separate game. Make it a whole
Yeah.
separate standalone. Charge me $20 if you feel you must for this multiplayer game, but I won't be trying it, chances are, because so far I've played a little bit of the multiplayer and it's been fine. I've gone in, I've played about 10 hours, it's been interesting, and then I leave. And then I never feel bad about having spent that 20 hours playing it with my friends.
if their argument is, hey, we're going to charge you more because we put this effort to make this thing in, I agree with either you put that as a separate thing where, okay, yes, I
Right.
can buy this if I want it, because some people who bought Red Dead want nothing to do with the online multiplayer.
The online,
But they're-
I've gone back
I
to
never
it. I
played it.
reloaded it. I went back to it, and I was like, "Fuck this," and I walked away.
And if their argument is we're going to charge you more for that, they shouldn't be charging you. Two, if they're going to charge you an upfront cost for that, then the microtransactions that litter those kinds of games should be cheaper. That's the whole point that those are there, is so that
Right.
they make money off of that free-to-play game. If they're charging you for that free-to-play game, that should be, in theory, not needed. They should make you free content. They should make you skins, at least more of them than they had been. Like, they shouldn't... They're just charging you more money because they want more money. Not for
Mhm.
any real grounds, but just because they want more money.
AC Ray says 4K texture theoretically should not take more time. Artists likely don't work in pixels. And he also points out making things fit in lower resolutions and polygon counts seems to take more time to me. It's easy to paint with vectors and vertices.
I don't know the details of 3D modeling. I don't know if they work with vectors and vertices.
That's why
but I do
think that
know.
you're making an
do know
assumption that it
it-
is more expensive. I doubt it's that much
but
more
it
expensive.
is. It's more difficult. Just look at like CG. Look at
Mhm.
Last of Us Part 2 and look at the original Mass Effect and compare the CG models in both of those games. You cannot argue to me that it took the same amount of money and effort to create Ellie from Last of Us Part 2 that it did to create Commander Shepard from the original Mass Effect.
I think that it is just as easily argued that it might have been more expensive to create the 3D modeling of Mass Effect because they did not have the computing firepower. It probably required more people. They don't have the tools, along with what Andrew was saying. They did not have the tools and the automation that they do have now that cuts down the cost of those
You
things.
get an artist to make concept work.
I don't
It's
think
like
you're
saying, what do you
appreciating
think is
Ellie's
what do you
model.
think is more expensive to make? A book like Harry Potter right now, or one of the first folios of Shakespeare's work? Well, the first folio of Shakespeare's work required it to be handwritten, not printed with a printing press. The printing press made everything lots less expensive. So the fact that it's in better quality and more pages of it, that means that it's going to be more expensive, right? Well, not necessarily. You had technology between the release of one and the release of the other that makes these illuminated texts, say, from the Middle Ages, that take months and months and months and months and hundreds of hours to make a single book versus, a few seconds to make a new book with way better color and way better resolution.
It's a completely false analogy because that assumes the process of writing remains the same through the decades.
Well, it's an extreme analogy. It's taken it to an extreme of looking back and seeing a massive amount of technology between
every game
first entry and last entry, and looking at that as just being, hey, this has been an industry upgrade. There's been a lot of industry upgrades that make things go faster, that make things cheaper to make, that makes things automated, that didn't exist when Mass Effect was first put out, that do
and
exist
what
now.
people use those tools for is to create better looking, more complex models. They don't just use those tools to create another version of Commander Shepard. They use those tools to create more advanced and more complex things that are able to do more and more
So
to
without
get more insane
understanding
detail,
3D
more and more
modeling,
interest
you're
physics.
making assumptions that you don't necessarily know to be true,
No.
that you're conjecturing to be true, but
But
you're
that I'm
not really
conjecturing that-
quite sure.
Are you arguing
Most
that
of
the
this is-
3D model of Ellie is not as complicated as the 3D model of Shepard?
Oh, I
honestly, I
think
think-
it's more
okay,
complicated.
so-
The question is, does it cost more to make?
Okay, I
Yes.
think at this point we've
Yes,
reached an
100%.
an academic like
Yes.
conversation where Nick's right. If they charge $70, we're still going to pay $70 if the game looks good. And two, I don't think we have enough specialized knowledge in this field to make accurate assumptions that we will be happily agreeing upon. I think that my last opinion on this is if they want to charge $10 more, but they're willing to take more risks for those games, they're willing to try new things, I'm all aboard. But if it's the same thing that we've had for the last 5 years, but they just want to charge $10 more, I'm a little less behind.
Okay.
Like, use that money for a reason, not just because you want to make your bank account bigger.
Right.
If you're still making a profit in games, you don't need that $10 unless you're going to do something with it, in my opinion.
Record-setting profit, might I add. Record-setting profit when we're talking about Take-Two games that
Again,
have
I feel
multiplayer
like-
components.
I feel like you're using the success of Rockstar's games to argue against increasing the price for all games.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about Strauss-Zelnick, specifically what Strauss-Zelnick said, which was I actually do think that games, and it has very little to do with modeling, it has very little to do with the actual product. It costs more now for the people. It costs more
That's
for
a
the people.
part of it, yes. Teams are bigger.
So I do think that games do need to have an increase of price, but I'm talking specifically about what Strauss-Zelnick says, that says Rockstar games should be more expensive. Rockstar games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption should be more expensive because we provide this very in-depth multiplayer experience and everybody's getting it for free, and we really should be charging more for that. And me
He
saying,
narrowed his
no, you've made a record-setting profit on both of those games. Why would you? Why would you do that? That is actually just greedy to suggest. And I'm talking about those games and Rockstar and situations where there is a expansive multiplayer component that is put alongside of a single player game. I am kind of separating the two.
I'm of the mind that if you shouldn't charge more something that you choose to force on somebody.
Right.
Like, if you're gonna add, like, in this conversation, whether or not it's all games, but he's narrowed his focus down in this article to
Right.
one specific thing.
Right. One
And in that
specific
one
situation.
Okay.
I agree with Edie that if you're gonna have that, you should charge it separately. If you're going to say you should get money for it.
Right. That's all I was saying, Nick.
I mean, you're
So
still
do you have any
wrong.
more items, or are you checked
That
out?
was disgusting.
No, I didn't have any. I
All
didn't
right,
know that there was
okay.
a Take-Two
So
call.
my final item, and I know that Andrew had picked it up, is that if you are looking at upgrading your PlayStation 5 on day one with a bigger SSD, external drive, bad news. The SSD, which was actually kind of a big deal, that the expandable storage slot is disabled when you get it for right now. Sony's official teardown of the video obviously showed it, but they did say at that time that it is purposefully disabled at launch. And it will be available in a future update, but not right now. They specifically said, quote, "It is reserved for a future update." This statement made by Sony echoes comments that were made earlier this year from system architect Mark Cherney, who said that there were a number of compatibility issues in using commercial M2 drives with the PlayStation 5 that need to be addressed. They wanted to make sure that things were compatible. with the architecture, and they didn't want it to be too foreign for the PlayStation 5 to handle. And that is why your SSD expansion drive is disabled or will be disabled when you receive it. So just cool your jets. You're not going to be able to use a bigger SSD.
This really, really sucks for them because they just announced like how much active space they're going to have on their hard drive, and it is between 650 gigs to
They announced that
680
before.
gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like
We knew that already.
Well, we had guessed.
Yeah, we had guessed. They've actually confirmed it's 600
Okay.
to 680.
Because I remember we had specifically talked about the
Yeah, no, we
space
did.
at some
It
point.
was a guess because we knew that they were going to have like space set aside for the OS. But when you consider that the new Call of Duty game is 130 gigabytes, that's immediately 1/6 of your hard drive. That is more than 1/6.
Yeah,
That is
but I also, again, like using exceptions. Call of Duty is just notoriously fucking bloated. Like, that game is fucking huge. Everyone is shocked at how huge that game is.
Every year, too.
Most other games are not that big.
they've been climbing up to be like 50. 50 to 80 seems to be the average now.
I think they
Yes,
were going to be
yes, that
much
is.
bigger in the new console.
Yes, that's
I think
true
you're
too.
going to see it
Because
more like Call of Duty numbers
4K
than you are going to
textures
see.
take up more space. Yes, that's true.
They need to allow you to opt out of 4K textures. They
Why would
need
you
to
do
put
that
that
on
in
a
the game.
4K console?
Because if you have a
That defeats the
1080p
entire purpose.
TV, if you have a
Right.
1080p TV, you can't use it.
Right. And it's
True.
it makes
Yeah.
it a bigger game, and you haven't got an expandable SSD slot. Like, that was the big selling point of PlayStation 5, is you could expand the SSD. Yay. Except no, you can't until we update it.
And also, I mean,
Mhm.
some people don't care about 4K. Like, I don't see a huge difference between 1080p and 4K.
I mean,
I see a
honestly, at
difference
that
in
point,
color
why get the new consoles?
because, I mean,
The
HDR,
faster
better
loading
processing,
time, the better processing,
better
all the other
graphics.
things.
It's not just resolution and graphics, it's ray tracing, shadows, particle effects, like all this stuff that makes this stuff eye candy exists in 1080p as much as it does in 4K.
Mhm.
I mean, there is reasons, and then higher frame rates in general. Like, most games should run at 60 frames on the PS5. There is no reason that they shouldn't run at 60 frames. And if they don't, let me get rid of that 4K pack, because trust me, at 1080p, that game should run at 60 frames based on
Mhm.
the hardware that you got.
Right. So yeah, that kind of sucks, and it may just be me, but have we been noticing, like the big support of the PlayStation 5, of like, oh, it's going to be superior, it's going to be better, it's going to be all that. A little bit of as it getting closer to the release date, a lot of the shine is starting to come off of it. Kind of the same way that's happening with Cyberpunk. That as it gets closer and reality starts to hit on some of these promises that they may not be delivering day one, but didn't really tell us earlier that it wasn't available day one, it's starting to come off a little bit.
I mean, it depends on what features you're looking at specifically. Like, I
Mhm.
know they made a big deal about the loading times, but I've read reviews and comparing the two consoles. Like, it seems the loading times on Xbox Series X are, for the most part, faster than on PS5.
Mhm.
I know storage is an issue. I know also with you cannot put PS5 games on an external hard drive. Like, it won't allow you to transfer those games to an external hard drive. Whether it's SSD or whether it's SD, I don't know the term, but like you just
HDD.
HDD. You just cannot. It won't let you do that. Like, you would have to re-download the PS5 game, and so that's frustrating. But at the same time, the controller is really cool. Like, the load times are much faster than PS4. So I don't know. I think it's the general reality of any product when you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
also,
And also,
it seems like some of those hard drive things will come at a later date. I assume you'll be able to expand that SSD port in time. But also, Jesus Christ, you're going to spend a pretty penny for a 2 terabyte SSD. That's for sure.
oh no, it's going to be several $100s.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Nick. Just the closer you get to any like launch like this, you're gonna hear bad things.
Yeah.
But
And with
doesn't.
the Xbox, I've heard generally positive things about the hardware, and like it works, everything's backwards compatible. That's all cool. Like really positive things about the hardware and how smooth it is, but also like, yeah, there's kind of nothing to play on it. Like, yeah, this is a really cool console, but it also like is literally almost like the exact same as the one of like, yeah, it's faster and it does a lot more. Like the UI is literally the exact same, and it kind of feels like more of the same. Like
Right.
this is a
But
this
that's
is a new.
always how it is whenever there's a new console release, is that
Well,
there's
no,
a lot
'cause
of like,
of-
okay,
of-
now that I got it, what do I do with it?
Yes, of the two consoles, like the pros and cons, I've read that the Xbox seems like a great new console that kind of just does more of the same. Like there's not
Mhm.
really anything new about it other than, hey, you can get faster games and prettier pictures, and that's kind of it.
Mhm.
It's a
Was
hardware upgrade.
Yeah, it's a hardware upgrade with no new innovations. With PS5 is like there's a hardware upgrade. It loads slower than the Xbox. There's issues with the expansion, but the controller and the DualSense feels like a genuine next-gen upgrade, like a genuinely new innovation in how we can play games.
Mhm.
So
Also,
there's
they
pros and
baked in
cons on
this.
each side.
They baked in the software of like screen sharing really well. Partying like seems to be kind of easier once you get the hang of it. Like they seem to make software improvements, which is good.
Hmm.
The Okay, so first, speaking of UI, this is just tangential. You mentioned how you didn't like the fact that they were like doing a new PlayStation app or combining the message app and the PlayStation Home app. I gotta say that UI is clean. I was just gonna
Is
mention
it?
that. I forgot to. Yeah, I had to
So
use it
the-
recently.
Okay,
It
so
looks
apparently
nice.
they've improved it because the app that I have, like, it's really a fucking terrible app.
No,
On the
they
phone,
improved it a
it's
lot, and you can even like join
good
parties
to
from the
know.
app, like chat parties. It's clean. I like it. That's a side note.
Can you wishlist games?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't say, yeah, I think so. Sure, why not? It
'Cause
hasn't existed previous.
Well, you can
Oh,
do it
well.
through the app. It's just that doing it through the app is also just a horrid pain in the ass,
Right. It's
Uh,
and you can't do it on console.
so
yeah.
with Sony though, I think just and the consoles in general, we just fatigued. It took so long for them to announce it, and when they announced it, no one could buy one. So you can't get really excited about a console that comes out in a month when you can't buy a new console because there's none available.
Mm-hmm.
You ruined it. give chunks to buy if we had 3 months in advance. Okay, I knew in 2 months I can go buy a pre-order. No, we had a month. They were all sold out. If you didn't get one, you're screwed. And in Japan, there was literally an article that all the PS5s have been bought, and there's no plans to have any extra ones at launch.
Mm-hmm.
There just isn't any left. You
Oh,
can't
really?
get
In
excited
Japan?
about it.
In Japan. Yep.
Wow.
You can't get excited about something that's not there. I mean, that's gonna ruin it a little.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents. Is that all?
I'll let you know how they both are next week because I'll have both.
I think Edie's pulling a Nick. You're
Edie?
blurry, but I can see you move.
Yeah,
Edie looks
yeah.
shocked.
Is Edie frozen?
I think she is.
I think
So,
Edie's
Nick,
frozen.
I don't think we can sign out. So I guess this is just going to be an indefinite podcast now.
Yeah.
So guys,
Oh, was that you or was that Edie?
I accidentally hit my mic.
Oh, Edie says her internet died.
Oh, fun. So,
Okay.
how do we close this out?
I'm not sure because I don't know how we can end the stream. Because I know that we can both leave the studio, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that will actually end the stream or if it will just keep going with the background up until Edie's somehow able to log in and do it.
Fix it. Well, I mean, we could
Yeah.
log in ourselves. I'm not sure how this is gonna work, and you guys are about to see some real rough stuff. So
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say hold it down while I text Edie, but yeah, PS5 already sold out in Japan. That's coming from AC Wraith. That's crazy. I do know that they will have stock online on launch day. There was an article on GameSpot. I always get that mixed up. GameSpot, where they went through each of the major retailers and described how they would get their stock online. It seems like if you are looking for a PS5, Walmart may be your best bet because they will have stock on launch day for PS5, and they have specifically said when they will have those consoles available for purchase. And they're gonna do it in waves. So I don't know the exact times. You'll have to check that out. But like noon, they're gonna have stock. 2 o'clock, they're gonna have stock. 4 o'clock, they're gonna do it. And so if you're looking to get one, that may be the best bet because other retailers will have stock, but they have not specified when it will be available. So you just kind of have to sit on their site all day, testing that out. Oh, hang on. Yes, Edie, you're on.
Okay, so is the podcast? Go ahead and put me on your. Are you on my own speaker?
Yes, you're on speaker.
Okay.
I hope you can come through. I'm leaning forward. Andrew popped out to try to log something. I'm not sure what he's trying to do.
Okay, yeah, my internet just died, so we're restarting. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back in.
Okay, so
Hi, everybody in the chat room.
yes, can the chat room hear Edie? Can you actually hear her? I'm gonna try to turn it up. Oh, the phone's blank, but
Oh, that's right. You don't have a microphone, so
no. But I'm holding you close to my my mic on the headset, so you should be coming in.
So
Barely.
All right. So if I can't get in, how are we going to stop the show?
So that's what I was curious about. If I leave the studio, will the stream stop or will it just keep going with a blank screen?
I don't know. It's never happened before.
Okay, well, I can end the show without doing any of the.
End the show. Let's see if Andrew can sign in on the master account.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't even know because you don't know how to do anything because you're useless, right? You've never actually done the show.
No, I've not used any of those features. I've always just been the guest. Okay, well, I'll try to keep it down here.
Stay right there. What Andrew is doing is he's signing into the master account so he could end the
the stream.
Yeah, in the stream, and I'm trying to give him the information.
Oh, so apparently it seems like he's trapped. He tried to log in, but it sent him away, and because he's backstage, he can't bring himself forward again.
Oh no! Yeah. So you know what? Let's see.
Well, I'll talk to the chat until you can try to log back in.
Just keep talking to the chat. What I'm going to do
chat,
is
what are you gonna play this weekend? What are you looking for doing? How many of you are getting new consoles, actually?
Let's see if I got Andrew Smith.
I know, Ryan, you said you got 2 Xboxes and you're giving one to a coworker. What are you looking to play on the Xbox? Like, I'm looking to get access to that console Game Pass and downloading games from there. But what are you looking to do?
There we go. We got Andrew, we got Nick, all both on the same call. So, Andrew, I just sent you the sign-in information for StreamYard. If you sign in on StreamYard with that account, you should be the master holder and be able to get yourself in.
Yeah. It says no account exists with that email, so
All right, let me double check. I will send it to you.
Okay.
So in the chat, AC Wraith says that there's some part that you can sign off of Google Hangout call at any time, but the call will keep going until everyone has checked out. So by that logic, if I leave, the call will end, or the stream will end.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So this is fun.
You can take this opportunity to admire the art on my walls. God.
Or just the art that is Nick's face. Look at it. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, Valhalla. Valhalla's a good game. That's the thing. People always talk about like there's no new games or very few new games for the consoles, but all of the third-party games coming out are kind of optimized for that, I think. Valhalla, Legion, Cyberpunk, obviously.
I may be coming back in.
Okay. Personally, I'm actually looking forward. We mentioned it earlier in the stream. I'm looking forward to playing Sunset Overdrive. That was a game. Edie left, and she's on her way back in. Sunset Overdrive.
Hey.
Clearly,
You're
we
back.
need a contingency plan.
Clearly, I need to
Well,
provide
the contingency
you.
plan is just hold down the stream until
Someone comes back.
reboots the
No,
computer.
but I should at least give one or both of you the master account information so that if you ever do need to end the show again, because I would hate to have this just rolling until somebody gets
So
internet
was
back.
that the issue, Andrew, that you didn't actually have the proper login?
Yeah, no, I
Because
tried
you
to
said
log
you
in.
tried and it kicked you back.
Right?
No, it just said no account.
Right.
Oh,
And
okay,
and
okay.
if you don't have the master account who's running the stream, then he couldn't let himself into the because he was in the the
Yeah, because he
green
was
room.
backstage
He was
and
backstage.
he couldn't come forward.
I clicked
Right.
log in, and it took me to that screen, and immediately I was just like, shit, he's all alone now. And the second thought was immediately glad that's not me.
No, it was fine. Holding it down with the chat. And actually, with the chat, I think it comes to a good ending conversation, which is kind of just between me and Edie. What are you looking forward to playing on the new console when you get it? What's the first thing you're gonna do? What's the first game you're gonna boot up?
I don't know. I'm actually going to let I am going to let Game Pass determine what I'm going to do. I'm very much going to tourist in there for a good long time. Mostly because I think that there's nothing that's calling to me. Really, of all the games that are coming out, Assassin's Creed is the one that I kind of sort of want at the moment. But I don't think that's not out on launch day, is it?
It will be.
Will be.
Let me check.
I think so.
Okay. Because that
at
may
least
be
it was
the
gonna
one
be
I
close.
jump into.
So I don't plan to
November
get the
10th.
Xbox, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do get a PS5, it'll probably end up being like I'm gonna want to go back and try all the games I own, like their upgraded versions, see how better they are.
Mm-hmm.
But the first game I'd probably play would be Cyberpunk. That's the one that I want to play. That would be next gen.
Right. That I agree. And Cyberpunk is definitely something I'm going to want to play when it comes out. But the question is, when is it going to come out?
Hopefully in
that's a little
December.
ways
Yeah,
along.
yeah.
That's a little ways out. December. That's a full month.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
hopefully you'll play
I'm
something on the
perfectly-
console before then.
Right, but I'm perfectly okay with it being a month before I can get a game that I can really sink my teeth into, because that happened with the PlayStation 4. It happened with the 360. Well, not so much with 360, because 360 had been out for a little while before I picked it up. But those first games, I recognize that there's going to be that moment of like, fuck yeah!
I mean, the only game that I could play when PlayStation 4 first came out, when I first got it, was Warframe.
Mhm.
Like that and Resogun,
Huh.
because that was a free game back
Resogun
then.
was cool.
It was.
I
and
remember
it's-
one of the first games I got for PS4 was Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And I remember being specifically impressed because when you crouch down into the the foliage to hide yourself, like you do in every stealth game nowadays,
Mhm.
that when you move through it, the bushes around you would kind of
Right.
move as you move through it. And that one thing was like, oh, the 360 can't do that. And it was cool seeing the bushes move around me as I walk through them. And now, that's fucking standard in everything. But I remember at the time it was just like, oh, this is a next gen game.
Yeah, I think that the first game that I played on the PlayStation 4 was Astro's Playroom, where I was immediately sexually harassed to the point of where my husband was like, I don't know that I want you playing on this thing.
I remember you
it was-
mentioning that.
I had something like immediately 100 different people. I mean, it was the biggest stream I've ever done. 100 people came in and all asked me to show my tits. And it was like, all right, Astro's Playroom.
There's a reason that thing got shut down.
Yeah.
Like it got shut down.
Did it get shut down? I thought Astro's Playroom is still going.
The streaming got shut. Something got shut down because people were just doing porn on it. Like,
Mhm.
and they would
like
take,
Uno porn.
Yeah, it was. Oh my gosh, it was bad.
All right. Well, it's like the internet gods are telling us to wrap it up. So let's wrap it
Okay.
up. What do
Well,
we
I
say?
want to say, I don't know if Sunset Overdrive is on Game Pass, but if it is, that's one of the first things I want to play on the Series X, because that was one of the first Xbox exclusives that I couldn't play because I
Right.
didn't have an Xbox. So I've got to go back to the start.
Yeah.
And if it's not available, I'll probably hop on Gears 5 because Gears.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Gears 4 because I never got to play 4 because that was
I
the
never
other
got to
one
play
that was
4 or
exclusive.
5. So yeah, I
Yeah.
probably will jump on Gears. It's very much like I'm going to Hometown Buffet and it's like, what's the first thing you're going to eat? I'm like, I don't know. It depends on what I
Yeah.
feel like that day. Because it's all going to be for me about the Game Pass. I don't anticipate buying any games for a while. Absolutely.
good.
So by the time
and
that
in the
you
chat,
talk again,
Ryan
I will have played the Xbox 3 or the new Xbox Series X.
Ryan in the chat said that he just won a PSA, something about Costco having gift cards for 10% off.
Please
And-
order gift cards for 10% off from Costco online.
Oh,
And I
so if
guess
you're
you
gonna,
can use that when buying a game.
Within
Yeah.
5 minutes, they email you the code.
Okay,
and
so
get
it's like
savings.
buy a gift card for $60, get 10% off of
Yeah.
that, and then use that gift card to buy a game. But the
Yeah.
game's not 10% off.
no, but you still have $60. Like the whole point is that you would.
Oh, right, because you get the gift card for $60, but you got 10% off, and then you have that $60 to spend.
Yeah. So basically, it's
Okay.
just 10% off anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a $6.66 or $6 off of a $60 card, or say $100 card, you get $10 off. So you have a $100 card, it only costs you $90 to get, and then you use that to buy a $60 game
Okay, cool.
and other stuff and paper towels, toilet paper, hand sanitizer.
No, and what's the fucking water? The
Pamplemousse. Buy
No!
pamplemousse.
what's the puffy candy that you eat? It's a big stick.
Cotton candy.
Cotton candy, the cotton candy water. Yes.
No, that's Walmart. Cotton candy
Yeah.
Walmart is.
Oh, is that
Cotton
Walmart?
candy
Oh,
water is at
okay.
Walmart, not Costco. At least as
Okay.
far as I know.
Yeah.
My bad.
You can use it to buy
Thank you, Andrew. That was killing me.
take home baked pizzas and massive amounts of meat. Pillows, mattresses of ground beef. That's what you can use to buy.
Heaven.
Yeah. So it's $90 to buy a $100 gift card. He says it's always that, or is because I've never bought a gift card from Costco. That just seems I'm not a gift card buyer. I'm either going to get you a gift or I'm going to get you nothing. A gift card is the most lazy thing. It's like that's
I'll
like
give
saying
money.
I don't really care about you, but I'm going through the motions. It's the most passive aggressive thing that you can do is buy somebody a gift
I'm
card.
so gonna give you a gift card someplace for Christmas. I'm gonna send you a card in the mail, and it's just gonna be like a gift card to GameStop for $5.
Yes, I was about to say, do it somewhere that like she
Forever
doesn't go.
21, something that I absolutely would
Yeah.
never use it.
Hot
for.
topic.
Hot topic, yeah.
I give cash for gifts because I want people to use that money the way they want, and I don't want to get people something that they're just like, thanks.
Right, right.
Mm.
Yes, exactly. That's why I will give you cash before I will give you a gift card.
Gift cards like, here's cash, but you can only use it here.
Right.
It didn't save me any money to do this. I'm
Yeah.
just a dick.
Right, it's just a dick. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not afford food this month? Here's a gift card for Land's End. A $500 gift card for Land's End. Enjoy. Yeah, $90 for $100 worth of products is what he sees on there.
Okay.
All right.
If you buy it for yourself, you save $10, 10%. All right, so gentlemen, Nick, I mean, I've already closed out the audio podcast, so there's no reason for me to go over the audio podcast stuff and do a regular closeout. So everyone, thank you for joining us and sticking with us in this very weird end of a show. But we will talk to you next week. We do record this on Sundays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you're watching, then you've already found us. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Do me a favor right now. Hit the thumbs up on I don't know if they have thumbs up on Twitch, but on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up just so that, it helps with the algorithm. YouTube loves that stuff. Keep an eye out tonight, Nick. I think I might be trying to come back and salvage Ivar the Boneless. I have a feeling that this might be the last night we play that playthrough because I don't know that we can recover from this. This is going to be hard.
Okay.
Thank you for the thumbs up, whoever just did that. Turn it blue, my friends. Thank you. And also, don't forget to come back next week at 2 p.m. 5 p.m. Or if you want to listen to the show, if you're away for whatever reason, you just want to do it as a podcast, we do record the podcast. It is on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker. I believe we're now on Spotify as the GameHounds podcast. You can just listen to the audio. Gentlemen, we will talk to you next week. And if you are on YouTube, that's where we do the Crusader Kings 3 playthrough with Ivar the Boneless. That'll be on later on tonight as soon as I, make some dinner and pop it in the oven. So talk to y'all later. Thank you for sticking around. Have a great time with your PlayStation and or Xbox when it happens. Bye.
Don't question it. Bye.
Don't question it.